of progress over the winter. The truck tested great. I'm good and sharp. We just need to have a little bit of lady luck on our side.
Last season was fun, but I'm really looking forward to this season. I've got a new team, a new attitude, and you know that for sure. And I'm going to take my Ford right to the front.
What are you doing here? Hey, wait a minute. What are you guys doing here? This is a kid's game here. This is a kid's game. Let's go down and do something big. Let's go. Right now. Let's go. We're ready.
I'll tell you what, best thing I can tell you, let's go to Homestead and settle this.
We'll just see you there.
The date was August 24th, 1992. On that fateful day, Hurricane Andrew roared through the city of Homestead, Florida. Lost were 8,000 businesses, 55,000 jobs, 47,000 homes. But soon the hardy residents of Homestead began to rebuild their lives. And part of that rebuilding includes this sparkling gem of a racetrack, the 65,000-seat Homestead Motorsports Complex. And that's where we greet you from this afternoon for the start of the 1996 NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series. Hi, everybody. I'm Eli Gold. Welcome to Homestead and welcome to a season of change for this series. A brand new name, a brand new schedule, 24 events, up from 20 a year ago. A purse that will total better than $4 million this season, up from $1.7 million a season ago. And on the racetrack, the changes are equally as significant. A brand new Ford. Dodge is on board with a full factory backing. Chevrolet looking to continue their mastery after winning the series championship with Mike Skinner just one season ago. To follow up on all of the changes for 1996, trackside our NASCAR Winston Cup crew chief Larry McReynolds and the editor-publisher of Stock Car Racing magazine Dick Berggren. And fellas, change is the operative term this year.
Thanks, Eli. Change and new are the two words that are being heard most often here at Homestead in the garage area. And why not? We have so many brand new teams. Rich Bickle is fast for Richard Petty in a brand new team. Joe Ruttman is very, very quick for Jack Roush. And Darrell Waltrip has got a brand new team here with Bill Sedgwick driving for it. 19 rookies have signed up for this series. 10 of them are in the race today. Larry McReynolds, wild day.
I tell you what's unique about this race, Dick, is this is the longest race that the trucks have ever run. The speeds are going to be faster than anything they've ever seen. And this is their Daytona 500. All their testing all winter has been put forth on this race, so it all happens here today. This is what those guys have been anticipating since their last race in Phoenix.
And it's not only the drivers who are so interested in the race, the manufacturers are too. Ford has come with a brand new body. Dodge has a brand new nose, a new cylinder head, new intake combination. That should make them faster, more competitive with the Chevrolets. A lot of brand new stuff going on here today. For more, here's Glenn Jarrett.
Well, thanks, Dick. You know, timing was a problem for several competitors here in qualifying on Friday. 13 of the entrants violated NASCAR's 5-minute rule that allows them to get on the line and qualify. Most noted of these, Brian Refner in Ernie Irvin's truck. Now, although Brian qualified 6th fastest overall, he'll start 26th in the field. What that did was enable guys like Rick Markle and also John Nemechek on the row ahead of him here to lock in times on Friday in the top 25 that would not have made the race had they had to qualify in the second round on Saturday. Also buried deep in the field, guys like Rick Corelli, Butch Miller. It's going to be fun to watch them negotiate these tight turns, Eli.
So that's the story as we set the scene for you here. It is race number 1 of a 24 race schedule. To Homestead, Florida, racetrack that really says Florida. The pastel colors, there are palm trees all around, and a darn good field of trucks. Jeff Bodine qualifying with the fastest truck lap in history of better than 135.5 miles an hour. Defending series champion Mike Skinner starting alongside in roll number 1. Ron Barfield Jr., a bit of a surprise, stepping up from the All-Pro Series, and he's making a mark in Super Truck Racing, or NASCAR Craftsman Truck Racing. Ron Hornaday Jr., third in series points a season ago. Roll number 3, Jimmy Hensley, alongside longtime Winston Cup and Busch Series veteran Joe Ruttman. He had a superb 1995 season. There you see others in the top 10. Jack Sprague, Kenny Schrader. You know, if it has wheels, Kenny's going to race it. Mike Bliss with Barry Dodson as the crew chief, and Dave Rezendes, the team truck to Jeff Bodine. Rich Bickle with Dodge, and Richard Petty backing Bill Sedgwick, running for Darrell Waltrip Motorsports. Others who qualified well here today: Butch Miller, a standout of a year ago. Road racing ace Scott Lagacy taking to these trucks very, very well. Bobby Gill, a man who comes from the All-Pro Series to Super Truck Racing, he's done well. Kenny Allen, his Chevrolet qualifying outside of roll number 8. Bob Keselowski, a longtime Chrysler runner from ARCA. Lance Norrick, his dad's the mayor of Oklahoma City, but he's a darn good racer himself. Row number 10, David Smith, and the High Plains drifter Rick Corelli from Denver, Colorado. Jay Sauter and the veteran Walker Evans made his name in Baja, but he can wrestle one of these trucks around. Doug George, and in a backup truck, John Nemechek says here on Friday took the hardest hit of his career as he impacted the wall in turn number 3. Rich Markle and the series champion from the American Speed Association, Brian Refner, driving for Ernie Irvin. Michael Dockin from ARCA, and Charlie Cragen in row number 14. Other starters, row number 15, Terry McCarthy. And from Winston West competition, Butch Gilliland. He'll be going to Japan to run at Suzuka in November. Frank Kimmel from the ARCA series, and Rodney Combs Jr. damaged their truck earlier in the weekend, but they're set to go outside of row number 16. From ARCA, Bob Strait and the coach, Jerry Glanville. They are in provisional starting spots. Richie Petty and ARCA veteran Bob Brevac. There you see the starting field, 36 strong. A lot of rookies, Dick Berggren, as you touched on with Larry McReynolds earlier in the telecast.
Well, they're rookies in this series, Eli, but they're not racing rookies. All of the people who are here, and we're calling them rookies for this race, have got lots and lots of racing experience. So this is not going to be one of those deals where we've got people who don't know what they're doing. All of these drivers are veteran, skilled race car drivers.
This racetrack will measure officially 1.53 miles around. Those are the numbers that NASCAR is using as far as rounding it out. So we'll be going 167 laps today. As you see the in-truck camera from Joe Ruttman, he'll be starting in 6th spot. We'll be going up with him on the roof cam there, and a number of different looks that we'll be showing you. One of them will give you a peek out the back as you see the wind just wafting in off the stars and stripes there. There's Mike Bliss starting in 9th spot. He thought he might even be able to grab the pole here the other day. It didn't quite work out.
Yeah, he's got himself a new deal as well, and very, very optimistic about the start of the season. But then again, Eli, so are so many of these drivers.
Now we'll take a look at the truck for Brian Refner. We'll be on board with him from 26th spot. And Larry, that should be interesting because when he couldn't get through tech inspection, wasn't there in time here on Friday, he's got a good bit of real estate to make up. Should give us some interesting pictures.
Well, it really does, Eli. And, you know, they thought maybe they had a shot at the pole on Friday. Again, they had the tread width problem at qualifying inspection. His time quick enough in second round was to put him 6th, so it's going to be interesting to watch him come through the field.
Bill Sedgwick also carrying one of our onboard cameras here today. There he is with a good look at the man who has gotten the call from Darrell Waltrip to drive his truck here in 1996. How tough of a racetrack to get a hold of as far as a crew chief is concerned? A rectangular track, basically. How tough to set up for?
Well, it's going to be tough, Eli. When I walked in here yesterday, I said, wow, this is a miniature Indianapolis. It's got the long straightaways that you've really had to have a good engine, and you got to have a pretty aerodynamic sound truck. You've got to get that thing stopped going in that first corner, in that third corner, and get off those 2 corners as good as you can. Get set up for those short straightaways in between 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, and get down through 3 and 4 to get up on that straightaway. How you get through those exit corners of turn 2 and 4 is going to dictate how quick that truck will run down those long straightaways.
And most everybody says the passing will be done off the turns here at the Homestead Motorsports Complex. The King looking on, and you know, when you stop to think about it, how natural this is. 186 of Richard Petty's 200 wins as a driver came at the wheel of a Chrysler Corporation product, and the Dodge folks are really pleased and proud of the truck that they've put together here. But I'm interested to see how the Ford truck also shapes up. Technically a 1997 issued Ford truck.
A lot of changes with the Dodge too, Eli. What has happened in the past is both the Ford and the Dodge had aerodynamic lift at the nose at this racetrack, which I can't tell you enough. This is the fastest racetrack these trucks run on. So getting rid of that lift lets the truck drivers be able to handle their vehicles much better, helps them get through the corners. Now with the new nose, the Dodge has got some downforce, and so does the Ford. Now last year Chevrolet dominated this series. It won 16 to the 20 events. The guys who are running Fords, the guys who are running Dodges say that will not happen this year as a result of the changes.
Mike Simons driving the pace truck. He is about set to tuck down the pit lane. The chief starter for the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series, Chris Morgan from Santa Barbara, California. He is atop the flag stand, and we are about set to go racing. The first of 167 laps, and Jeff Bodine with a quick jump in the 07 truck. He's got Mike Skinner to his outside, a couple of Chevys, a couple of Fords in the first four. Let's see if they hook up by brand or if anybody can make the jump, and Skinner does, going into the corner. Good clean start through turns 1 and 2.
Skinner picking right up where he left off last year. He won the most poles, he won the most races, he led the most laps, and he's going to lead the first lap here at Homestead this afternoon.
The only man to lead over 1,000 laps on the series a year ago, Skinner, en route to the series championship. There he is, truck number 3. Mike Skinner.
Jeff Bodine right behind him is running the same truck that he used last fall, and what was billed as an exhibition race. Now the drivers got about the same amount of money one to another, so it didn't much matter where you finished. But let me tell you what, they just hammered on each other, and Bodine won that race in that truck that you just saw, the 07, just went out of your screen.
Meanwhile, 3-wide battle, Mike Bliss in the 2. You've got Barfield in the 94, Kenny Schrader giving a little room there in the 52. Everybody looking now to the short chute, tying together turn 3 and 4. The short chute 600 feet long. This main straightaway that they negotiate right now 2,100 feet long. You see Rich Bickle in truck number 43. Schrader in the 52.
You know what you see, Eli, these guys, the fastest way around this racetrack, it's pretty much a one-groove racetrack through the corner. See them, they're running right on that white line, and then again, as they come up on the straightaway, you'll see them get right up against the wall to go down the long straightaways.
7 is Dave Resendiz. That's the team truck to Jeff Bodine. Got Barfield, Butch Miller.
The yellow area that you're seeing just to the inside of the trucks, that is rumble strip. It was put in there to keep the trucks on the racetrack, keep them out of the infield, and it has moved the groove up a full 12 feet from where it was in the inaugural race last November here at Homestead.
We're on board Brian Ruffner as he again comes from the middle of the field now and works his way up towards the 20th position.
If you'll notice there, Eli, when he's at the faster that truck gets, you'll see that low pressure under the hood. You'll see that hood start sucking in, especially under high speeds. And we try to keep that from happening because that can certainly screw the aerodynamics of the truck up.
Good side-by-side battling. Meanwhile, up front, you've got Mike Skinner with Jeff Bodine, the pole sitter, right behind him. You've got Hornaday running in 3rd spot. And on the move now, a good position, Jack Sprague. He is challenging for 5th as we leave you here. Just 4 laps complete of 167. This is a 254-mile race for the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series. Sports Complex under caution as Mike Skinner leads the Florida Dodge Dealers 400. Some debris that you see being retrieved here by the efficient track crew cleanup, or track cleanup crew, I should say. Everything is efficient at this racetrack, Dick. This really is a crown jewel facility that Ralph Sanchez and his folks have put together here.
I would love to tie up about half of America's track operators, put them in the back of a bus, and bring them here, Eli. This place
Look at all the palm trees, the powder blue retaining walls,
the
or
landscaping,
foam green, whatever color you want to call that.
The size of the garages, the way they have seating over the top of the garages. But you know, the very best part of Homestead, I think, is how nice the people are here. You walk in this place and everybody just says to you, glad you're here, welcome to Homestead, have a nice time. It's just such a treat to come here. The teams love to come here, we love to come here, and if you can fit it in your schedule, a trip to Homestead Motorsport Park is going to be something you'll never forget.
Larry McReynolds, let's look at any of the trucks that we see in the picture now, looking out from behind Butch Miller's truck. Fans may be familiar that on Winston Cup and Busch Series cars, we have a cowl opening, an opening basically cut into the back of the hood at the base of the windshield. And that does not exist for these trucks, something that's rather unique to motorsports.
Right, the cowl opening is normally about a 20-inch opening right at the base of the windshield. Right there, it'd be right behind where you see the GM sign on Skinner's truck there. And it's a fresh air induction for the air cleaner for the carburetor. I think what happened here was the new Ford truck body extended the windshield so far over the engine and into the hood area that there really was not a good place to put the cowl where it would be sufficient for the carburetor. So what NASCAR did says, okay, the simplest thing here, like they do a lot of things that makes it equal for all competitors, let's just do away with the cowl opening. Now, I talked with a few of the engine builders yesterday because the cowl opening, especially at a track with speeds of this magnitude, it can certainly mess up the tuning of the engine, but the few engine builders that I've talked to said thus far, whether it be because of the compression ratio they're running or what have you, it really hadn't affected their tuning.
It also can eliminate some of that front end lift, though, can it not?
The cowl opening can do two things. Once you close it up, it will reduce drag. It will reduce the drag of these trucks on these straightaways, so it's a little of advantage there, but yes, it can in a small way, depending on the size and shape, reduce the front lift or the downforce that the truck has.
Some unique rules for the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series. One is a carryover from last year. There will be a halftime break of 10 minutes where the teams must put on 4 brand new sticker tires and make whatever adjustments they'd like on their trucks. But they've also added 2 what are being called competition yellows, 2 caution periods. One will come up somewhere between lap 35 and 45. One will come up somewhere between lap 121 and 131. And basically, Glenn Jarrett, the idea there is to let these fellas make their pit stops, take care of their trucks without, very honestly, having to bring in a ton of folks to work on the machines.
Well, that's exactly right, Eli. We're down in Jay Sauter's pit now. He's driving truck number 42, owned by Felix Sabatis. And you see the guys working on the tires here, getting them ready. But we're going to get ready to go back to green here right quick, and we'll cover the green flag action, and we'll get back to the tires and we'll tell you what the strategy for changing tires is.
It'll be very interesting to see as that unfolds a bit later on in today's race. Back under green as the trucks steam off into turns 1 and 2. They are distinctly different turns separated by that short chute, but this is a 1.5 mile speedway versus a 2.5 mile, for instance, Indianapolis Motor Speedway, basically the same shape, but an entire mile longer in that case. Hasn't taken Mike long to pull away, has it?
No, it sure hasn't. It hasn't taken Mike long to figure out how to deal with those rumble strips either, Eli. Many of the drivers were saying before the race they don't want to put any wheels near those rumble strips. They're scared to death of them because the rumble strips tend to upset the truck. Skinner has been working on those rumble strips the whole time since he's gotten here to try to figure out how to get as close as he possibly can and work those rumble strips to his advantage.
That's Dave Rezendes in the number 7 now, trying to make an inside move as he battles for 5th spot. You know, it's interesting though, Larry, because some guys are saying yesterday they want to go over that rumble strip deliberately.
Exactly. If a truck quits turning, in other words, the front end just didn't bite, a lot of times the drivers will take the left front and just hook those rumble strips, and it'll like settle the truck down and go ahead and make it turn through the corner. So sometimes you can use them to your advantage if your truck's not handling quite like it should.
Front 4 pulling away from a good Jimmy Hensley battle now. That's he in the 30 truck. Outside, or actually to the inside now, of Dave Rezendes. The 2 is Mike Bliss right there as well. And there you see the Quaker State colors for Jack Sprague as we ride with Mike Bliss.
strategy on the truck deal. His wife lives in Oregon, and he has to live wherever he can possibly race. What he's hoping to do is to make enough money so that they can finally live together. They've been apart an entire month before this race. And I said, how do you get along with that? He said, well, usually it's just fine, but a couple of summers ago, I had to spend the whole summer in Indianapolis, and she spent the whole summer in Oregon. I came home, and she had redecorated and redesigned the whole house. So he wants her to move in with him.
There's Jack Sprague in the 24 truck. Resendiz behind him. Rich Bickle in the 43. He's not really settling in. He's kind of looking inside, outside, all around. I wonder what King is saying to him on the radio.
Wouldn't you love to be in on that one? Bickle said this morning at the drivers' meeting he's still trying to find the fastest line around this place, and a lot of the drivers are. It's a very, very difficult racetrack.
There you got Bickle in the 43, Schrader behind him. Ron Barfield Jr. was the other truck in that picture. And now back onto the main straightaway, 65,000 grandstand seats to your right. And the Formula One style pit garage area with the pit terraces to the left. Really a picturesque racetrack in a beautiful part of this country that is rebuilding after the devastation of just a few years ago. Mike Skinner continues to show the way as he has from the first green flag. Jeff Bodine, Ron Hornaday, and there you see the top 10. Bodine, Ron Hornaday, Joe Ruttman. Here's a great battle for fifth spot. You've got the 30, that's Jimmy Hensley. The 2, Mike Bliss, and Bliss using the strength of the back straightaway into turn number 3 to make the move. He's been setting them up for quite a while.
Good battle, Ford versus Dodge there.
Bob Keselowski having a super run as well. He's been in the mix today. He's in the next pack of traffic behind this one. Inside move for Sprague. Cuts to the inside of Resendiz in the 7 and makes the pass. Just joining us, we are 16 laps complete of 167. This is a 400-kilometer event, hence the name, the Florida Dodge Dealers 400 kilometers from NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series, as Sprague and Hensley continue their battle going right now between turns 3 and 4.
Sprague in a Hendrick Motorsports operation. He wound up in that. Whoa, we got trouble on the racetrack right in front of him.
As one truck spins, that's Bliss, who impacts the wall. Everybody tries to go inside, outside, all around, and we are under caution as Mike Bliss's truck impacts the wall coming through turn number 4, and yellow is on the speedway. I'll tell you, this racetrack has claimed some trucks here this week, from the practice runs on Thursday through Friday's John Nemechek accident. That truck running back at about 19th position as everybody goes by, but it was a pretty good scramble for a battle going through the corner. Here's what happened. He was running 5th at the time. Just came right around on him.
Way up high.
Like he might have got a little bit high in the corner. Truck got just a little bit loose with him, and he just tagged the wall. Just watching it go around there a while ago, he may have a little bit more rear downforce in that truck now. I don't believe he's really hurt a whole lot. The thing here, the speeds being this fast, maybe it might hurt the drag just a little bit.
So the caution on the speedway for the second time this afternoon. The first time was for debris at lap 7. Now for Mike Bliss's problems coming out of turn number 4. Homestead, Florida, as we take a look at the Mike Bliss truck, and we happened to be riding along with him earlier as he had his problems. Let's take a look at what happened. Yeah, there was a second hit that got him, but did you see what might have started it going?
Rumble strips. He got the left side tires in the rumble strips, Eli.
Let's go down to Glenn Jarrett.
Well, thanks, Eli. I'm in Mike Bliss's pit. His crew chief is Barry Dodson. Of course, we all know Barry. He was with Kyle Petty last year. Barry, first of all, good to see you, but not under the best circumstances. You had a chance to look at the truck. How is it?
That's not good. It was a little tight off the corner, and I just told him, I said, you're running the same as everybody else. And he got a little close to the wall. In the longest line, Mike. In the longest line before the green. Pass to the right. He didn't want to hit the wall, and he cut it. I told him, and he cut it down a little bit. And next thing I know, I was reading ASC from the back.
That's not what he wanted to read here today. We're back to green.
Perry Dodson always has a way to put things on the start. Here comes Ron Hornaday. He's in the blue Napa truck, and he just got the quick jump on Jeff Bodine. So Skinner continues to lead. That's a good battle now for second.
Well, I guess if Bliss's wife redecorates the house when he's not around, he can redecorate the truck if she's there. Larry, what kind of effect is that going to have on the handling of the truck, do you think?
Well, I believe that the back of the truck, again, is a little bit higher now that he's backed it into the wall. That can help the rear downforce, but again, speeds this fast. If something's hanging out in the breeze like behind the rear tires, that certainly can hurt that truck on these long straightaways.
Jeff Bodine wins the battle for the second spot, but already Skinner in 1 lap's time has pulled away by 1 1/10 from second place.
I'm sure that's what Skinner would like to see in his rearview mirror is Hornaday and Jeff Bodine back there racing, because meanwhile he was just pulling away from these guys.
Skinner calls this place a technical racetrack, and by that he means that you've really got to focus on every single element of driving the racetrack. And he doesn't get credit for it, but Skinner is one of the most cerebral drivers of the bunch as we watch Ron Hornaday get by Jeff Bodine going into the third turn.
But Jeff's coming right back if he can.
Only race Jeff Bodine won last year was right here at Homestead in the truck exhibition.
This is for second, with Ruttman right behind from the truck upon which we're riding. Sponsored, by the way, by JR's Garage. That is Jack Roush's souvenir store entity, basically.
Yeah, it's not Joe Ruttman's garage or Jack Roush's garage. They've got a souvenir store up in Livonia, Michigan, where, among other things, you can get a Jack Roush authentic real hat. They could have put Dick Burton's pays in it, but they wouldn't take the line.
Jack Sprague, you see, working to the inside of Dave Resendiz now as we go back to pit road. Glenn?
Well, guys, they wanted us to be sure to tell the fans out there that even though it has JR's Garage on it, that is not the season-long sponsor. They still need sponsorship on that truck. Roush wasn't going to run it blank. He says, hey, we'll put some of our stuff on it, but they're still looking for a corporate sponsor for the year. So anybody out there interested, that truck is available. It will run up front.
Jimmy Hensley in the 30. Dave Resendiz right behind. Jack Sprague and others. 23 laps are complete. Ron Barfield Jr. in the 94. Kenny Schrader in the 52. Barfield, he's really become a hot commodity that the Elliott Hardy racing team and Winston Cup fame has hooked onto.
He is racing under a microscope. Everybody is wondering, did Bill Elliott pick the right guy here, or did he not? There are a lot of people who say none better than this kid, Ron Barfield. What a terrific opportunity he has.
Speed Weeks in Daytona, really his first time ever on a big super speedway with drafting and so on. There he is with Schrader running behind him in 9th. 24 laps complete. Rich Bickle in the 43 truck. Scott Legacy was behind him. And again, Jimmy Hensley and Dave Resendiz.
This is a new ride for Hensley. It's interesting to watch how the team shifts have occurred over the winter, and it seems as if every driver is trying to get a Winston Cup connection, and every team is trying to get one. This team, the 30 team, picked Hensley in part because of his Winston Cup experience. These chassis are almost identical to Winston Cup chassis, and having a thorough understanding of how that chassis works is vitally important. That's why Sedgwick went with Darrell Waltrip to get connected with Winston Cup. Why not? Every single winner in 1995 in this series had a Winston Cup connection.
You know, I was just thinking the same thing. And Robert, if you're listening or watching, we do not need a truck team. I promise you. We've got all we need. But no, really, you know, these...
Trouble in turn 3.
As a couple of trucks get together on the short chute, caution is on the speedway here at lap number 27, and a tough ride for Jay Sauter as he rumples up that great-looking truck. Jay Sauter, part of the famous racing Sauter family, of course, Jim Sauter being the patriarch, and it looked as though it quick glance at that narrow straightaway between 3 and 4 just narrowed up too much for those numbers of trucks.
It also narrowed up too much for Walker Evans, who went round and round up there as well, but he doesn't appear to have hit anything, and he's underway. Not so with Sauter. That thing is pretty well beaten up.
So caution, lap number 27 will be the first lap of caution here at the Homestead Motorsports Complex in Florida. Let's see if we can get a better view at exactly what happened to those trucks there between 3 and 4.
Walker Evans in the 20 on the bottom, gets into the rumble strip, drifts up high, catches Sauter. 2 go by on the bottom. Sauter's gone. He's in trouble now.
Definitely Jay Sauter was just a victim right there.
Missing him, the 17. You see Sedgwick go by? Just did miss him.
Really, you know, these
Trouble in turn 3.
As a couple of trucks get together on the short chute, caution is on the speedway here at lap number. Well, that's what it looked like from the Bill Sedgwick onboard camera, and there we look back from the Butch Miller truck as well. So 27 laps on the board, 27 laps for the leader, Mike Skinner. He has been the man to show the way all afternoon long. Glad you're with us. The season opener for the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series, live on TNN Motorsports from Homestead. Side Dick Bergman, Larry McReynolds, Glenn Jarrett. I'm Eli Gold. We are live with you at the magnificent Homestead Motorsports Complex here in South Florida. It really has become a beautiful sports complex, not just motorsports. They've got a great-looking baseball stadium alongside that is in need of a spring training tenant. Was to have been home to the Cleveland Indians, but when the hurricane came through, that altered the plans for the Cleveland Indians, and they had to go elsewhere. But this has just become a beautiful, beautiful area.
Better off here.
Mike Skinner, the leader. He has led from the beginning. The truck behind him, or now alongside, Jerry Glanville. The coach is 1 lap down, trying to get back on the lead lap if he can. The 07 running in the 2nd spot. That is Jeff Bodine. Ron Hornaday is running in the 3rd spot, ahead of Joe Ruttman being posted in 4th. As the field now gets set for the restart, lap number 28. Remember, the competition yellow that comes up somewhere between lap 35 and 45 could be flying within the next 7 or 8 laps. So we'll be keeping you informed about that as the restart now sends the field back off into turn number 1. Now this time Jeff's hanging with Skinner. Last restart, by this time Skinner already had a dozen or so truck lengths on everybody.
Glanville dropping way back. That's the old 1995 Ford truck body Glanville has. You look at that one and you look at the new Ford truck body, and there is just a world of difference. The new one, the windshield slopes way back, and Glanville is paying the price for the old style aerodynamics here today.
How much is that windshield change? The old version was a 75-degree windshield. The new one is 35 degrees. Such a significant change that they've had to move the cage back a number of inches to accommodate the roll cage and the driver. Good scramble, middle of the field now. Rich Bickle in the 43. Rick Corelli driving for Marshall Chesrown out of Denver, Colorado. Right there battling as well as we look from the on-truck cameras from Mike Bliss's machine.
Sedgwick just ahead. Darrell Waltrip's truck.
Mentioned Corelli there. You know, he started in the 20th spot. He's now up to 10th in truck number 6.
He ran all the races last year, came really close on several occasions, but Corelli has yet to win one of these things, and he is one of the hungriest drivers.
Ran a gaggle of trucks coming back to the start-finish line. Sedgwick in the middle, following Glanville, the 81. Bob Strait, the ARCA driver, also in that mix. They were 3 wide a short while ago. There's Brian Ruffner trying to work his way through in the 44 truck.
You see a lot of hard racing, especially back in the pack here, Eli, and I think you see 2 things going on. These guys are trying to get as close to the front as they can before that competition yellow. Also, they know that when that competition yellow comes out, that they at least got 2 fresh tires coming, so they can kind of lean on that chassis and lean on those tires now because they know they've got that coming.
It's a half-second lead for Skinner at the front of the field. Meanwhile, we watch in the middle of the pack a battle for 6th spot now. You can sort out everybody or anybody within that pack. 3 wide racing on the main straightaway.
2 layers of it.
Yeah,
Eli.
that's Doug George in the Ortho truck, number 21. Winston West Series champion of a season ago. He said very honestly that he didn't know if his truck was going to be able to keep up the pace here. It was a new operation. He thought they might have been down just a bit on power. But he's staying in the middle of that pack, in the middle of the mix. "33 laps on the board. There's a scramble coming out of turn number 4, back to the stripe. 81 Glanville, the 00 Frank Kimmel. That's the white truck behind him, the ARCA Series standout.
Butch Miller has just driven onto pit road. He is obviously experiencing problems with his truck. Miller won 1 race last year. He won in Colorado in the trucks.
So Butch Miller is on the pit lane. Also thought I might have seen a wisp of smoke out of the Rich Bickle truck the last time he came by here. And we'll have to get a closer look at that, Glenn. Maybe you've got an update from pit road.
Yeah, Eli, I'm on my way to their pit right now to see what it is, but I got a feeling it might be brakes because I see it the most as he reaches the end of the front stretch down here. I was down in the far pit, down in Mike Skinner's pit, and really saw it, so I headed up here to find out what it is. I'll check it out and let you know for sure.
Eli, talking about brakes, you know, I think teams come to this racetrack and maybe you think 1.5 miles, you think speeds of the magnitude that they're running here, averaging 130-something miles an hour. Maybe some of the teams took brakes for granted, but what you got to remember when you get to this into these long straightaways, you've got a very tight corner, so you have to get that truck slowed down in a hurry.
Butch Miller, we mentioned, was in on lap 33 for a stop. He took on fuel. You cannot take on tires for no reason because of a penalty that is assessed if you take on tires without them being flat or on the rim, and there was no reason for Butch Miller to be able to take on rubber, so he was in for fuel only. But Butch's problems are far more significant. His truck still limping around the racetrack. Back to Glenn Jarrett.
Well, Eli, we found the problem with Rich Bickle. At least they think they have a leaking valve cover gasket. As technical as these things are, what do they fix it with? A shop rag. They're going to try to put one in there to stop the oil flow. That's his problem. We'll move on down to Butch Miller now, see if we can find out his problem. But Bickle will have a problem. They're going to try to ride it out to the halfway point if they can, but they got to worry about NASCAR black flag today.
The field now working through the corners, and on the back straightaway, the leader Skinner will be coming to the caution flag. There you see Mike. He has led the entire event thus far, and he will be getting the caution next time by for what again is being termed a competition caution by NASCAR. And we'll take you a little further into the explanation of that here in a moment, as the yellow is now being displayed by the chief starter, Chris Morgan, and we are under caution. Now the laps are going to count here, effective at lap number 38, as the competition yellow is out. And here's what's going to be able to take place, guys. And I think NASCAR was very, very astute in trying to make this a cost-effective series by mandating everybody stops, because otherwise you'd have to start bringing in the big-time pit crews.
That's exactly right. You know, all these trucks have to take fuel on here. They was a little concerned that they could go the distance to the halfway point. And I think Goodyear has brought a really excellent tire here. In practice, it seemed like it had a lot of staying power. The wear looked good. And right now, it's up to the teams. They do not have to change tires on this competition caution. But if they do, they can only change 2 tires. And I got to believe, especially the front 20 that you're going to see come on the pit road, take on fuel. They can make any normal pit stop chassis adjustments, wedge, air pressure, spring rubbers in or out. But I got to believe you're going to see most of these leaders take on 2 right side tires here.
They can take on new tires. They can take on scuffed tires, as opposed to the halftime break where you must put on 4 brand new sticker tires. Here the option is yours. But again, the bottom line was there was some concern as to whether the trucks could go to the halftime break without running out of fuel. So NASCAR says, all right, everybody, at the quarter mark and later this afternoon at the 3/4 mark, there'll be another competition yellow, and you will not lose your spot on the racetrack. If you come down pit road and you're running 8th, you go out and you're 20th back on the racetrack, you're going to get back in line in 8th unless the pace truck has passed you and put you a lap down. So this is just a way to basically take pit strategy or high-tech pit crew stops out of the equation.
And one of the guys who really likes that is Richard Petty, who said, this really makes it a driver's race. You don't have to import a $500 a day tire change or a $500 a day jackman. What you have to have is a guy behind the wheel who can really get the job done.
There you see the second place truck, Jeff Bodine. Now, one other provision in all of this is that NASCAR is not going to realign everybody, but instead it is the team's responsibilities themselves to make sure that their truck gets back in line in the right spot. Every spotter here, and they use spotters on the two-way radios just like NASCAR Winston Cup and Busch Series competitors do. Every spotter up on the roof here has a scoring monitor available to them, and they are responsible for getting their truck back in line in the right spot. Let's go to Glenn Jarrett.
Well, Eli, we move back to Rich Bickle's pits. The King, Richard Petty's overlooking things here. They're going to the left side of the engine compartment. That's where the leaking valve cover is. As I said, they've got some shop rags out there just to try to stop the oil flow. I can't see any oil under the hood in the engine compartment, so it may not be all that bad. We'll report on it and get back to you, Eli.
Butch Miller's problems were either ignition or fuel pump related, and the crew is still underneath the hood of their truck as they look things over under caution. Lap number 38. Bliss's truck, remember he was involved in the accident earlier. You know, Glenn told you earlier how when you have a problem, you got to fix things with a shop rag. Well, in the case of Bliss's crew, they just said, heck, let's just go to town on the bed here and jump on it till it gets back into shape.
I wonder if they've been to the wind tunnel with it like that.
Oh, Lord. Dave Rezendes, there you see his truck. He came down pit road for a second time at lap number 39, and it looked as though he might have tagged the wall there in the process of making these stops.
Yeah, the right side of that truck is damaged. You can hardly see it in that image, but it is there.
So we remain under caution here in Homestead, Florida. We'll be going racing in just one more lap. 40 laps complete. Skinner continues as the leader. A tip of the hat to Rick Corelli and to Brian Ruffner. Each have picked up 14 positions in this first quarter of the event. In Corelli's case, starting in 20th, now running in 6th. Ruffner starting 26th, now running in the 12th spot. So those two fellows doing awfully well as their trucks are obviously dialed in. Butch Miller is taking the Ray Bestis truck behind the wall. We'll get an update shortly. Green flag in the air, and Mike Skinner is gone. How's that for a restart?
Mike definitely just picked up where he left off before the caution. You know, Mike has got the whole package today. His truck is really handling good, but let me tell you something. He is not hurting for horsepower.
Not at all.
Or anything else.
Or anything else.
They probably got more miles, this number 3 team, than anybody else in truck racing. They tested the majority of the racetracks last year, and they really learned a lot. 13 tests they did at between 200 and 250 laps apiece. They learned a good bit about this truck racing as a result.
On board with Joe Ruttman in the 4th spot, looking forward towards Hornaday. Ruttman, though, has to worry about Jimmy Hensley. That's Jimmy to the inside in a bid for 4th. Dodge truck is rammed tough right there as he gets right on by.
You know, Jimmy was starting to fade just a little bit in the later stages of the last run, so it appears maybe they made some adjustments on his truck, and he's headed back toward the front.
3,400 pounds are these trucks, by the way, if you're not familiar with the series. Barfield getting by there, the last of the 3 trucks to make the move around Joe Ruttman's machine. So it's Skinner, Bodine, Hornaday, Hensley. Good scramble now. You watch there, Rezendes in the black truck, and alongside making the move, Jack Sprague in that green and white Quaker State truck. Meanwhile, Butch Miller is in the garage area with Glenn.
And Eli, he's waiting impatiently while they change the carburetor on his Ford F-150 pickup. Butch, not exactly where you want to be.
Negative. You know, Ray Bestis Ford credit. Hold out.
You can hear they're firing the truck up right now. They want to see if this carburetor works, so they're putting Butch back to work right now. I think they're going to send him out, but you can hear the dejection in his voice. They're going to get him back out as quickly as possible.
You know, we've Had some interesting byplay today when we were talking with Barry Dodson earlier. You heard him at the same time talking to his driver, talking to a NASCAR official, and they're obviously not going to get in the way of them trying to fix that truck. And Butch said, hang on a second. tries to fire it back up. So we're kind of getting some interesting looks and sounds here this afternoon in Homestead, Florida.
Try to get that close in any other sport. I mean, imagine a football or a baseball game. You can't. That's one of the things that makes auto racing and truck racing so very interesting. You really do get up close to what's happening.
Truck number 12, Tim Smith. Good scramble again between Hensley and Hornaday for third spot. Pretty good battles all the way around this mile-and-a-half racetrack. 45 laps on the board. 65. Ken Allen Jr. and Rich Bickle is coming down pit road. Rich Bickle down the pit lane. They had the problems we had talked about earlier.
No, Eli, there's something about a leaking valve cover that it's literally almost impossible to try to fix in a hurry. It's almost like you just got to sometimes stop and just put another valve cover and gasket on and take the laps that you've lost and go on and fix it right.
Why does it happen so often, though, Larry? That's one of the most common reasons that cars and trucks have to pit. Why can't they fix that?
It's a pretty sensitive area, and one thing about it, even though engine guys are really careful with trying to take them on and off, a valve cover gets taken on and off a lot during your normal race weekend. You know, they're adjusting the valves and checking valve springs, so it gets on and off a lot, and sometimes the gasket just don't go back in place.
Kenny Schrader's truck slowing on the back straightaway now, working midway down that long straight, so he's got himself problems. Meanwhile, the battle for fourth comes out of turn number 4 and back to the stripe behind Mike Skinner, the leader. We've got Hensley, then Hornaday. The 24 is Jack Sprague. Dave Resendiz in the 7. Everybody's trying to pick their way around. Hold on to whatever they've got. Front two, though, having pulled away by a significant margin now, as Skinner and Jeff Bodine, running first and second, have pulled away by 3 seconds from the battle that you're watching on the screen.
Interesting story on Jack Sprague in the number 24. He said racing used to be his obsession. It's all he wanted to do. It was his total focus. 17 months ago, Paige Nicole was born to Mr. and Mrs. Sprague. And Jack says she now is the most important thing in his whole life. And he says, you know what? Once I put things into perspective, I started going about 0.2 a lap faster. He said, I think I was just trying too hard. So he credits his daughter, Paige Nicole, for running faster, and they've named the truck after her. She's a little bit overweight, so the nickname is Chunky.
You know, watching Jack last year in the truck series, I'm not saying he had a bad season the first part of the season, but it's like halfway through the season, he really stepped up and really become competitive on a weekly basis.
16 top 10 finishes, you're right, from that point on. So that was how the year shaped up for Sprague a season ago. Here today in Homestead, Florida, they're working still on the Rich Bickle truck, while Mike Skinner is just working on the rest of the field. Ball stadium right next door was to have been spring training's home for the Cleveland Indians. It's in search of a tenant. If you've got yourself a major league team, I want to come on down to Homestead. We are under caution. Walker Evans' truck brings out the 5th yellow of the afternoon. He impacted the wall between turns 3 and 4, basically the same spot he was involved in the little tangle earlier this afternoon with Jay Sauter. We'll see what we can tell in the aftermath of the problem, but he impacted the wall fairly significantly, and there you see what remained of the back end of that truck. Not a whole heck of a lot, and finally the shedding of debris.
Yeah, he's got a lot of damage there. And I'll tell you, interesting bit of information about that 20 truck that Dick and I pried up this morning. We kept seeing this guy wander through the garage area working on that truck, and finally we went up to him this morning, and it was none other than Joe Milliken, who a lot of the fans remember was an awfully good race car driver back in his days. Drove for Petty Enterprises, won some ARCA races, drove for Ray Mock, and now he showed back up working none other than on a NASCAR truck.
Walker Evans, he was running in 32nd spot, 1 lap down at the time of the incident. Let's go back down to Glenn, who's been snooping around the pit area of that truck, Jimmy Hensley's machine. Glenn, he's running awfully well.
Yes, he has, Eli. They made an adjustment on that competition yellow. The truck was loose getting in, and therefore it pushed coming off, so they bumped the spoiler up. That's the crew chief, Fred Grazer, we're looking at above me there. They bumped the rear spoiler up. They made an adjustment on the air pressure, and they really got him dialed in now. And you talked about Joe Milliken being in with Walker Evans. I'm going to walk right over here and take a look at this guy here. Turn around here, Joey. This is Joey Arrington. His father, Buddy Arrington, ran Chryslers for a long, long time, worked in conjunction with Richard Petty Enterprises. Joey builds the engines for these things. So far, so good today, Joey.
So far, so good, but we got a long way to go yet.
Typical racer response. Joey doing a good job for him, furnishing the power plants for Jimmy Hensley's Dodge truck.
Said his dad's doing really well up there in Martinsville. And, of course, Jimmy's from that area. Jimmy Hensley is from Horse Pasture, Virginia, which is a suburb of Ridgeway, which is a suburb of Martinsville. If you want to follow it all the way to its illogical conclusion. We are under caution. There's your race leader, Mike Skinner. His Goodwrench Service truck has been in the lead all afternoon long. He did not hold the Busch pole. Jeff Bodine had that honor. But by the time they got to turn number 1 on lap number 1, it was the lead for Mike Skinner, and he has not been headed since. $401,000 plus on the line today. That is double. More than double what was the richest purse of the year a season ago. They ran at Phoenix for $178,000 a year back, and that's just part of the upgrades here in 1996. Pace truck is on pit road. Here we go, back to green, and there goes Skinner quickly through the gearbox. Jeff Bodine, Hensley, Ron Hornaday, Jack Sprague, and Dave Resendiz in line upon the restart with 30 trucks still on the lead lap.
Another upgrade that we're seeing this year, Eli, is that last year when the series was brand new, there were a lot of really quality trucks that didn't have sponsorship. And that is a rarity right now. The sponsors have found this series, and they love it as much as the fans do. It's been a very competitive series. In fact, so much so that last year, in the 20 races, a total of just 22 seconds separated first from second. That's out of 20 races.
And again, it's a cost-effective series as here goes Bodine for the lead. Jeff says, all right, enough is sitting. He's going for the lead, and Skinner doesn't want to give.
Oh, nice.
Jimmy Hensley to the inside.
You know, they was talking about Jimmy Hensley's truck being loose getting in. They have adjusted that truck so well. That seems to be his strong point, getting in the corner.
Caution in turn number 1 as trucks litter the speedway. Truck number 71, that's the Markle machine, while Skinner holds off the challenge of Bodine, and here comes Jeff right back to his inside.
Gary Glanville is also involved.
The coach is involved there. And caution is on the speedway, as you see, for the 6th time this afternoon. Jeff Bodine is the leader as he heads back to the stripe, taking the lead at lap 55. And here's what happened in turn number 1. Well, somebody got into the coach. It looked like the McCarthy truck was the one that rode up number 27 and got a piece of the coach, who then had nowhere to go but to get into Markle's truck. So caution. 6th time this afternoon, lap number 55 here in Homestead, Florida. 167 laps make up the distance, and Jeff Bodine is the new leader. Picture in the 90s here in Homestead, Florida. And time for us now to bring you a very special part of our telecast. Western Auto, the official parts and service store of NASCAR, with today's trucker profile. The man we are happy to profile today drives for the king of stock car racing, Rich Bickle of Edgerton, Wisconsin. And even though he's behind the wall right now, hooking up with Richard Petty further validated the fact that the Craftsman Truck Series has become big time, and it further validated that Rich Bickle indeed has become big time.
It's a great opportunity for me, like you said. It's just amazing that you know, it's taken me 5 years to put something together down here, and you figure that you'd get something going after a while, but then have somebody like Richard Petty offer you something, and just it's kind of mind-blowing. I don't really know that's happened yet. It's kind of new, and everything's brand new here the first race, and I still got to pinch myself once in a while. It's a full-blown Wins Cup effort doing the truck series. You know, we got plenty of employees, we got good people with us. I mean, just everybody's behind us, and Dodge is there. I mean, the whole year is looking good so far, and ain't even started yet.
Unfortunately, Rich Bickle is behind the wall right now after problems earlier. But Larry McReynolds, I'm sure even in your line of work, and I know, as we all do over the years, you have been sought after by big-time team owners, moving on from Kenny Bernstein to Robert Yates. It's got to be an awfully, awfully special feeling when someone of that stature, as in Bickle's case, Richard Petty, comes after you and says, hey, come work for me.
Well, I think it goes back in your early age when you start just having kind of dreams or thoughts of what your long-time goals are, and that certainly was the case in myself when I was looking for a team that we could seek that championship, be competitive every week and win races, and certainly thank Kenny Bernstein with all my heart for the opportunity that he gave me, but to go on to the next level, which I felt like was being with Robert Yates Racing, it's something that was in my mind 20 years ago, and it's really flattering when people look at you that way.
We ride along with Brian Ruffner, stepping up from the ASA Tour, the American Speed Association, as we ride around this Homestead Motorsports complex. Don't forget, right after our race here in Homestead, Florida, stick around. The Bell South Mobility Opryland USA 320 Busch Series racing from Nashville coming up here on TNN Motorsports. Sterling Marlin on the Busch pole for that one, coming up immediately following our checkered flag here in Homestead. The race leader right now is Jeff Bodine. He took the lead at lap number 55. The first 54 laps were led by Mike Skinner, and that's where Glenn Jarrett is checking out a story.
And I'm going to talk to his crew chief, Rich Burgess, here. And Rich, that's some pretty hard racing they were doing right there for the lead at this point of the race.
Yeah, they're just kind of trying to get things sorted out right now. You got a little loose in 3 and 4 there and allowed Bodine to catch him, but things are going pretty good right now.
A couple of times early before the competition yellow on the restart, he really took off. Was he really running the truck hard then, testing to see what it would do, or what was going on?
Yeah, he's just trying to get a game plan, just see how the truck felt and all, but then we had to, just back off a little bit and try to save it.
Well, no, all last year you guys kept telling us you had to kind of rein him in, slow him down to make him go fast. Still talking to him as much. He's doing an awfully good job.
Yeah, you got to do the same. He wants to go. You know how that goes. That's good. So we'll keep telling him, but he's a charging, and that's good.
Yeah, they like him. He's a horse, and I tell you what, he's done an awfully good job for him.
He has done that, grabbing the inaugural season championship and leading for much of the afternoon here in race number 1 of this season. But right now it is Jeff Bodine showing the lead. We are 1 lap away from going back to green, so stick around. We're back to Homestead, Florida in a moment. Welcome back to the Florida Dodge Dealers 400 kilometers. Here we go, back to green. Jeff Bodine, he is the leader. Remember last year, only ran 10 truck races, but he was 3rd in the number of laps led, and here he leads him back to the stripe for the restart. Mike Skinner, though, who has led the first 54 laps, he had an idea, didn't he?
I thought they were going to come together right there, Eli.
He had an idea right there. Single file racing.
This is neat stuff. You got a bunch of guys right up there that just can't stand to be in second spot.
You got a Ford, a Chevy, and a Dodge product.
Yeah, look at Hensley going to the high side on this thing.
You saw Jeff Bodine drop to the inside of that back straight. There's a little bit of drafting going on here, and you kind of see some of the things we see at Indianapolis, Pocono, and even the super speedways going on there. And of course, Jeff Bodine, with his experience, he knows how it works. There you see down the front stretch, he's like trying to break that draft just like they do down the long straightaway at Pocono.
Skinner also knows how it works, though, as he tries to make a move. There's Hensley in the Dodge.
Yeah, Hensley's on the inside of him. He's got him.
Couldn't quite force the issue, though.
No. Skinner says that he tried a slingshot here last year in November when they had that demonstration of it. Yeah, but he said he couldn't get it done. He did try, just couldn't make it work. Hornaday now has just made a pass. He has moved his way up.
He's in 3rd now, around Jimmy Hensley, who's riding in the 4th spot. You've got Jack Sprague in 5th, Dave Resendiz, Bodine's team truck. He's next in line, then Ron Barfield, Joe Rutman, old Bob Keselowski, and then Rick Corelli next in line, the High Plains Drifter, as they call him out there in Colorado. And he has come all the way from a distant start.
That was a fountain that you just saw in that shot, by the way. If you've never been to a racetrack with a huge infield fountain, there is one here in turn 1. Part of the scenery.
Jerry Glanville pitting again. He's been involved in accidents in the most recent caution. That's the battle for the lead. It's a good one.
Bodine, your leader, has got to get it done today. He says he probably will not run another truck race until the very last one of 1996.
Bloodlines are going to take over. I guess Barry's going to climb into the truck.
Yeah, he's going to let his son Barry do it, at which point Barry will become the youngest driver in the series.
Barry ran last year in Martinsville, Virginia, on the truck race that was held on the Monday because of weather at Clay Earl's beautiful track a season ago. Scramble. I'll tell you, Skinner's keeping the heat on him in the 3.
Skinner hates to run second.
He does.
Hates it.
Here he goes.
And he's not going to run second for long. Look at Hornaday follow Skinner through.
Hornaday said, if you're going to make a hole, I'm going to go with you.
Yeah, and so is everybody else, too.
So lap number 63 is the change back to Mike Skinner, who reassumes the lead. Walker Evans is back on the racetrack. For those of you who are following his exploits, he is 12 laps down in his truck, but back out there nevertheless. So only Butch Miller's truck now being shown officially behind the wall and still being worked on.
Look at this. You've got Resendiz in the 7 trying to follow the boss through. Jeff Bodine in the 07.
Jack Sprague was there as well.
And Sprague's on the outside. They're both trying to put him down.
We are at lap 63. The halfway point is lap 85. So still a good bit of racing before we get to that 10-minute break.
There you see Ron Barfield. It's like he fell back at the beginning of the race and kind of felt his way through, and now he's working his way back to the front.
Jeff Bodine having backslid, as you see, and there are your front 3. Working that 2,100-foot long back straightaway, and there's Bodine and the rest 4th on back.
Just kind of wonder maybe how hard Jeff run his truck a while ago and got those tires heated up. Maybe the handle is fading just a little bit on that truck.
Butch Miller back on the racetrack, while Jerry Glanville, with an electrical problem on his truck, goes to the garage. Butch Miller is 18 laps down, but he is back on the speedway. As tight as the point championship was a season ago, you've got to get out. No different than Winston Cup or Busch Series. Get whatever points you can. They use the Busch Series point standings procedure. You do not get bonus points in the Craftsman Truck Tour for leading laps or leading the most laps as you do in Winston Cup. Here they use the Busch Series procedure to hand out the race-by-race points.
And let me tell you how tough it was last year. Hornaday finished 3rd in points. He had 6 wins, 10 top 5s. And he didn't drop out of any races. No DNFs in all 20 events, and he still wound up 3rd in points.
You know what else they're doing here, which I think is a great idea, very much like Winston West has done, as you watch the lead trio still, no change in the running order. Even if you didn't qualify for the event, some points are given out basically for showing up and making the effort to be part of the series on a regular basis.
And that's a good thing, because they have somewhere on the order of 128 numbers assigned, and there are trucks being built that are outside that group.
They tell me there are 225 trucks now on the ground. I mean, Ernie's team has 7 and so on, but they say 225 NASCAR trucks now exist in garages across this country. It's a heck of a story, the way this tour has built over the last year. Mike Skinner continues to show the way as we are live in Homestead, Florida. Glad you're with us on TNN Motorsports. Dick Bergman, Larry McReynolds, and Glenn Jarrett with you here at the Homestead Motorsports Complex. Tip of the hat to the number 64 truck. That's Michael Dokken, the yellow truck you see there. He has just gone by Rick Corelli for the 10th spot. The significance is that this longtime ARCA competitor is now running there from starting in 27th. So he's up to the 10th spot. Michael Dokken ran this series last year, so we do want to just tip the hat to those who are series regulars and are making some pretty good moves now.
Dokken's got an interesting career. It's kind of a dual career. He works on the truck and he works at a convenience store. How do you marry those two? Dad owns the truck, Dad owns the convenience store. Dad's the boss.
Got all sorts of interesting stories. Ryan Ruffner in 14th spot. He's been dealing with traffic all afternoon after not being able to qualify in day number 1. Again, if you were with us, a number of the teams not beating the 5-minute clock after qualifying. Brian's been caught middle of the pack much of the afternoon long.
1994 ASA Rookie of the Year, 1995 ASA champion. There are a lot of people who think this kid is going to be a superstar in auto racing and truck racing. Ernie Irvin said he picked him because he just loves bringing people along. You know the last guy he brought along? A fellow named Johnny Benson, who got his first Busch Grand National ride ever with Ernie Irvin.
And this is Ruffner we're riding along with. And remember when Benson showed up at Michigan and his car went flying down the back straightaway, had that horrendous accident, shook it off, comes back, goes to the Busch Series, wins a title, moves into Winston Cup. You never know what's going to happen early. You just got to fight it off and keep going back to your racing, and it's worked. Here's Mike Skinner, the race leader. Things are still very, very tight there. Jeff Bodine, he's in the mix after having led from laps 55 through 62, and of course winning the Busch pole earlier this afternoon. Let's go down to Glenn Jarrett. He's got an update on Jeff's truck.
Well, Eli, I checked with him to see if there were a problem with the truck because Jeff fell back a little bit. They said, no, he just got bumped a little coming out of 4. It took him a little time to get his rhythm, get the truck straightened out, and get back up. But they said it is okay. A little bit of concern down here. NASCAR just told us that the halftime break will be 5 minutes instead of the normal 10. Now, you know, Bodine has 2 trucks in the show today. His and Dave Resendez. They've only got 1 crew here, so this 1 crew has to service both trucks in only 5 minutes.
Because of the number of cautions that we've had already today, 6 to this point, NASCAR has, as you hear from Glenn, they elected to shorten the halftime break. They'll still have that second competition yellow later this afternoon as well. And there goes Jeff Bodine. Swings past Jimmy Hensley's Dodge truck. But Skinner and Hornaday, you know, one of these days you'll be seeing the next generation of Skinners and Hornadays racing against each other, because both have race car driving youngsters in the family, and with the teams and the families now based in the Carolinas, we'll be seeing younger Hornadays and younger Skinners here on the racetrack before we know it.
In fact, what Hornaday does during the week is not work on that truck. He works on a big collection of late model stock cars. 3 of them for people named Kelly Earnhardt, Kerry Earnhardt, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. The 4th for Ron Hornaday III. He has a daughter, Candace, who is a drag racer. Yes, indeed, we will see more Hornadays and more Earnhardts, and I think Ron Hornaday would like to see these kids all go off and get their own rides so we can quit working on all those cars. There's 8 of them he's trying to take care of.
How soon before the young McReynolds have Daddy working on their go-karts or something?
I'm not going to steer him toward racing. I've been trying to think about sticking a baseball bat or football or a golf club maybe in Brandon's hands.
And how about Brooke?
I believe she's going to be a TV producer. She was working with us in rehearsing this morning, doing a great job.
We are 76 laps complete of 167 here at Homestead. Glad you're with us on TNN Motorsports. Jack Sprague in the 24, Dave Resendiz in the 7. Looks as though Jimmy Hensley's Dodge fading just a tad here as we near halfway. We're 10 laps, 9 laps now shy of that halfway break.
You know, even though Hensley's truck really run good in this segment, it was kind of this time in the first segment that his truck began just to fade just a little bit. So the handling going away again is a near caution.
Good point. Jimmy Hensley, as mentioned earlier, with a Joey Arrington engine aboard out of Martinsville, Virginia, as we are now 76 laps complete. Oval corners here, banked 8 degrees. There's the battle for second. Jeff Bodine flexing the muscle, makes the move. So Hornaday now back to 3rd spot. And working his way in and around. Hornaday, Bodine. That battle's not done. Sprague, Resendiz will be the 4th truck in the picture.
It's a good race.
It is a good one.
Real good race.
All of this behind Mike Skinner, the leader. He's been in his own little league here today. Battle for the 2nd spot, a good one. Here comes Resendiz, and Sprague's kind of looks at the backstretch of Talladega on the last lap or something, doesn't it?
Yeah, lots of scrambling.
77 laps on the board. This one far from over, but we are within shouting distance of the halfway break as we're live in Homestead. Of halfway as Mike Skinner continues to lead the Florida Dodge Dealer 400 season opener for the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series. We'll be seeing many of these events right here on TNN Motorsports this season. You've got Ron Hornaday, Jeff Bodine's team truck. That's Dave Rezendes in the 7. Jack Sprague in the 24. Will be 3 laps shy of halfway as Rezendes looks inside of Hornaday.
He has been sticking his left side wheels into that rumble strip. Nobody else is able to do that except Rezendes, at least not without spinning out or crashing into someone. Look at that. Right into it.
Super run. Going way wide after Hornaday had to reel that baby back in.
Yeah. I got to believe that 5 minutes is going to be plenty of time for them to do whatever they need to do to those two trucks because both of them are really running awesome.
That's the truth between Jeff Bodine and Dave Rezendes. 5 minutes should be plenty, one would think. 82 laps on the board. Mike Skinner continues as the race leader. In traffic, Mike Skinner. As you see Hornaday and Sprague, and there's Skinner. It'll be halfway next time by. And he sees smart. He's not going to force the issue. He has Kenny Allen's truck there. Ran out of real estate.
And it's getting tight up there.
It really is.
Real tight.
Going for
Real
the lead.
tight.
Bodine. And they squeeze around Kenny Allen. Bodine is going around. Oh, and he puts Skinner into the wall. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. It'll hand the lead to Rezendes, who will come through turn number 4 to the halfway yellow with Hornaday running in second. You saw that one coming, guys.
Yep. It just wasn't enough room, and you know they was smelling that halfway money, so they was going for all they had.
They had the Gatorade halfway challenge money on the line here as they were coming to the crossed flags. Oh my.
Oh, that is wrecked.
Now 5 minutes is not long enough to fix that.
Nope, it sure isn't.
You can even see how it's almost dog tracking, like the rear end is really knocked over.
Unbelievable. You just saw it happening, and they tried to use Kenny Allen's truck as the buffer there. And let's take another look at it. Allen is in the 65.
Bodine in the bottom. Skinner in the middle.
07.
And there it is. Bodine gets into the rumble strip. Bodine gets into Skinner. Skinner gets into the wall. And sayonara. And the body men are going to love it.
You know, I was just starting to think during the break that, okay, they're going to catch this lap traffic just about the time they're getting about 1 lap away from this halfway challenge money.
Oh, that is wrecked.
Only 1 DNF in 20 races last year for Mike Skinner in that truck. They had engine failure in only 1 event, and that meant they were running at the finish of 19 others. But that is now the leader. You've got a quick look at Dave Rezendes, and there is Skinner. So Dave Rezendes is the leader. Hornaday came through the melee in second. The third truck, Sprague, right behind. On pit road, Bob Keselowski's truck being pushed. And let's go to pit road. Maybe we can get an update from the Skinner pit area.
Well, Eli, Richard Childress looking over his crumpled truck there driven by Mike Skinner, and doesn't look too good for the second half.
Now, took a pretty hard lick there. We'll just have to see what we can do here now. Yeah, we're going to try to fix it back.
Have you had a chance to assess the damage yet, Richard, even know what you're dealing with?
No, it's pretty well used up.
Well, you can tell that they're wanting to get 2 things here. A lot of disappointment here. A little bit of anger. You know, they had some run-ins with Jeff Bodine last year. I'm not saying that has anything to do with this, but those trucks bumped a couple of times last year also.
So under caution at the halfway point here in Homestead, Florida. As part of our telecast around the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series, we're proud to be able to bring you the Dodge Innovation in Motion, brought to you by the new Dodge, where we're thinking ahead.
Hey, when's the last time you remember Dodge sponsoring a NASCAR event? Been a long time, But the Dodge Dealers 400 here at Homestead indicates the commitment that Dodge has made. They're back in super trucks. They're here to stay. Let me tell you, folks, the Dodge engineers worked all last summer, last fall, over the winter, redesigning the front end of this truck, made it even more aerodynamic than it was last year. Some of the biggest innovations, though, have come under the hood here. Working in conjunction with some independent engineers, Dodge has helped develop a set of cylinder heads that's really got these Dodge trucks flying here at Homestead. They want to run all the races. They want to win. It's been a long time since Dodge has won in NASCAR. I believe 1996 will put an end to that streak. Dodge trucks are truly Ram tough.
Since NASCAR first began, there have been over 1,000 races.
Halfway through this exciting event, to say the very least, for the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series, the season opener, and these guys have picked right back up where they left off a year ago. At halftime now, you have a 5-minute break. You must put on 5 brand new tires. 4 sticker tires. I was thinking the 5-minute break. You put on 4 brand new sticker tires. That is mandatory for everybody up and down pit road.
And they can do any adjustments that they want to these trucks. Of course, they'll fill them up with fuel. They'll put 4 tires on. Maybe they'll put a new 5th one in the bed there, a new spare, you know. Maybe they'll do that. But they can change springs or shocks or sway bars. The only thing that they told Dick and I at the driver's meeting this morning, they can't touch the front jack bolts that adjust the heights of the front of the truck. If they change front springs, that means they have to touch those jack bolts. They have to notify a NASCAR official, and after the race, they will have to go back through the height sticks no matter where they finish.
That's John Nemechek's truck you see there. There's Mike Skinner's team. Skinner himself was underneath that truck moments ago. Let's go back again and take a closer look. And it looked as though they were trying to use the 65 truck, Kenny Allen, as the pick there, kind of get somebody caught in behind traffic.
Yeah, I think Jeff Bodine went on the bottom figuring that Skinner was just going to get caught behind Allen. Skinner would just have nothing to do with that, and he just got right in there. See Skinner moving forward now. Now watch what happens to Bodine. He gets into the rumble strip, and as soon as Bodine gets in the rumble strip, he is gone, then Skinner is gone, then Allen is gone. Oh, dear.
You notice what we said earlier, though, those rumble strips will make a truck turn. Bodine's truck definitely turned too far.
It sure did.
There's what remains of Mike Skinner's Good Wrench Service Chevy truck. Glenn Jarrett is there with Mike, as you see.
Well, Mike has been out around the truck, under the truck. Mike, first of all, what happened?
We wrecked.
We saw that. Do we know what caused that wreck?
Watch the film.
That pretty well says it. Now, what about the truck? You got a chance to look it over. You're going to be able to get back out there.
It's tore up pretty bad, but we got a real good crew. We might be able to get out and just limp it around, you know, and try to get a few laps. But you know, it's just one of them racing deals.
Well, he's obviously dejected. I don't blame him. He had the truck to beat today. As he said, check the film at 11. We'll see what happened.
I've heard those kind of answers in the past.
Yes.
It's just one of those situations, but it was something that obviously Skinner felt was avoidable. It'd be interesting to see what Jeff Bodine and Kenny Allen, whose truck was also towed in. Let's not forget about him. His truck has gone to the garage area as well. Halftime here in Homestead, Florida. The first of 24 races. Going to be tough for the next 23 to be this good, but I bet they will be. We'll be right back. Ron Hornaday, Sprague Hensley, and great run for Ron Barfield Jr. Michael Dockin now in 7th. His best 95 finish was 15th place. So there you see the top 10 as they continue to realign the field here at the halfway point. John Nemechek with all of these trucks being shown on the lead lap. Bob Brevac with a good run and down towards 20th place. 21 through 30 look this way, led by Frank Kimmel. There's you see the 65 truck of Glenn Allen. He's just gone to the garage area. And 31 through 36 position, those who are already in the garage area. Glenn Jarrett's on pit road.
Well, we've caught up with Jeff Bodine, the other combatant in that big wreck there right at the halfway point. Jeff, from your point of view, what happened?
Well, from my point of view and from the video, I watched it. I got underneath Mike off the down the backstretch. He got behind some traffic, and I drove under him. And going into 3, I was clearly under him, and you could see where I slowed up so I wouldn't slide up into him. Unfortunately, Mike decided to try to crowd me down, and he did. And I got into ripple strips, and he just kept coming and just turned me around. It's crazy to do that. I guess the boy don't like to get passed, but he was getting passed, and if he tries that again, I'll pass him again. But our Ford was running good. The new body style is awesome out here on the track. It's really good on the street too, folks. It's a beautiful truck. Shame for QVC. We'd like to start it this year out in Super Truck with a win, but I'll tell you who's going to win this race. It's my partner, Dave Resendes. He's flying out there, so we'll just stand back here and watch him, and hopefully he'll bring it home.
Well, Jeff, there was some contact between you and Skinner a couple of times last year. There's give and take on the racetrack. There's not much give and take between you two. Is this an extension of that?
Well, you know, I don't like to complain, and I don't very often, but he put me out at Martinsville last year. Everyone saw that. He just hit me from behind and turned me around. And there were some other times we were put out. So I don't know what's wrong with him. I know Richard Childress doesn't appreciate that kind of driving, and that's not his style. But, of course, we do see that quite often in Winston Cup by certain drivers, and I guess they think they can do it here.
Well, we've heard both sides of the story now. As Mike Skinner said, let the film clip tell the tale. Each guy has his own opinion. We appreciate both guys taking time to pass theirs on.
So as we are now a lap away from going back to green, here is the Duraliner mid-race report. Duraliner bedliners. Duraliner beating the leaders. Lead changes among 3 different leaders. Skinner, Bodine, and now Dave Resendes. The average speed, 7 cautions, and only 2 trucks right now officially out of the event. But obviously others are still being worked on the pit lane and in the garage area. Tell you something, I wouldn't put my money on any particular truck right now.
Well, I was just about getting to the point where I was thinking, well, Skinner's really got this thing locked up. I don't know if anybody's really going to be able to beat him, or it could come down to a dogfight between he and Bodine. Now it's a whole brand new race.
Hornaday's been strong. Resendes, though, you know, he's dropped back a tad, then he's always come back to the front. You know, he might be saving something yet.
And Refner's moving his way through the field as well.
And you got Pirelli, you got Dockin, we talked about them. You know, 21 trucks still on the lead lap at this point, so nothing's cast in stone.
And just remember, they got one more chance to adjust these trucks no matter what, because they got that competition caution coming around lap 125. So if they're a little off, they still got one more shot at adjusting.
Don't forget, folks, when we wrap things up here in Homestead, next stop, Nashville, Tennessee. The Bell South Opryland USA 320 of the NASCAR Busch Series will be at the fairgrounds in Nashville, coming up here on TNN Motorsports. So do stick around for that, but let us get back to business now. Fans all rise as though the judge has just walked into a courtroom somewhere. As one, they rise. And here we go. A green flag is in the air, and the second half of the Florida Dodge Dealer 400 underway. And Hornaday trying to literally push Resendes' truck down the main straightaway to turn 1.
Richie Petty is in the middle of that pack. Just did not get off to a good start. The trucks went to the outside and the inside. Look at this race for the lead.
It's a great battle. Good battle behind them for third as well, but we'll see everybody come pivoting into the picture.
Hornaday leading. Resendes in second spot. Sprague in third.
Mike Skinner having just returned to the racetrack in some degree of disrepair, certainly, as we watch the leaders. Hornaday, Resendes. Dave holds off the battle, and Jack Sprague in the 24. That's the truck that's co-owned by Jeff Gordon and Rick Hendrick. Dennis Conner turning the wrenches.
And that's another one of those dream come true deals. I'll tell you what, you look at this field and you just say to yourself, if there is anything to be learned in auto racing, it is never give up. Jack Sprague was ready to give up a whole bunch of times, thinking nothing good was ever going to happen to him. He got a one-shot chance driving for Rick Hendrick last year. Did a good job. Hendrick put him in the truck again at Richmond. He had problems. He crashed early. You know what got him this ride? Going through traffic from the back. So the crash didn't hurt him. It helped him. It landed in the ride. Now Jack Sprague is leading this race.
He will take over the lead here in lap number 88 in Homestead, Florida.
And Jimmy Hensley, who some people thought had a career that had ended, now running in third spot.
As we ride with Joe Ruckman, he's got Ron Barfield just there to his left. This is the battle for fifth spot.
What a nice run Barfield is having today in that 94 truck.
He's a nice guy, too, for the NASCAR Slim Jim All-Pro Series. He told you he ran at Daytona during speed weeks. Dockin in the 64. Ruffner in the 44. That's the battle for 10. You got Rick Corelli right behind in the 6 truck. And old Mike Bliss.
Yeah, coming back.
Beaten and banged and jumped on that truck bed. Barry Dotson and the boys got him running well.
It's about like my rental car.
I'm sure the guys at the airport are happy to hear that.
I hate to tell you, fellas, but...
Number 8 is John Nemechek,
who is really on a comeback run. John Nemechek crashed 3 times in practice and qualifying, and he just hung in there. In fact, on Friday morning, walking into the garage, who is under John Nemechek's truck? His mother, Martha, working on it, trying to get it ready so John could get out here and race.
the 30, Jimmy Hensley, the 7, Dave Resendiz. They battle for 3rd spot and 4th. Again, these machines running well as they were just prior to the halftime break. Glenn, how significant were the changes on any of these trucks at halftime?
Well, Eli, there weren't all that many. Obviously, they're changing 4 tires. That's all that they did on Resendez's truck. On Ron Hornaday, they made some very minor chassis adjustments. They're concerned. Doug Richards says there's a lot of little loose gravel pebbles on the tracks messing them up, but very minor changes. Jack Sprague, they changed the right front shock in the 4 tires. And on Jimmy Hensley's truck, the 4 tires and a half around the bike. So they really didn't change a whole lot. The guys that are the most confident are the guys in Resendez pit. And what we saw is exactly what they told us. Hey, we're real strong at the end of the run. So they think that the race is going to play in their favor because of that.
That's 4th, 5th, and 6th you're looking at as we peek out from behind the driver's seat of Joe Ruttman's truck. Barfield right behind him. That is 5th, 6th positions on back. Tell you, once he got by Jack Sprague, the leader, he's just pulled away. He's up by about 15 truck lengths. We'll keep you informed there as we watch Ruttman and Barfield still going at it. Glenn Barfield's had himself quite a day.
Doing exactly what he told me he was going to try to do. He said, hey, I'm new at this. This is going to be a learning experience. I've got a good truck. I just want to go out there and make good laps, do the best I can, try to get some experience. And if the race comes to me later on, that's what I'm going to do. He has certainly driven a smart race up to now. He said he was going to race the racetrack instead of racing those trucks around him for the first half, first 3 quarters. Then if he's got a chance to finish in the top 5, he'd start racing some people. He's doing a good job. That young man's got a future in this sport. He's tough.
What brand do you like best? Well, you got a couple of Fords, a couple of Chevys, and a Dodge in the top 5. That's the way they started, too. We got good parity here today, Eli.
That has been a story all weekend long, but again, in practice, you don't really know. You're wondering who's telling the truth, who's fudging this, that, and the other. But with Dodge having the factory program now and their changes, and as we've documented many times, Ford with their changes, as we look at 2nd place now. Hornaday ahead of Dave Resendiz. All of this taking place still better than a 2nd behind Sprague. Resendiz had an idea.
You know, just watching these 2 trucks here, Eli, I talked to Doug Richard yesterday, and they was experiencing something yesterday that they never experienced last year. A lot to do with the speeds here in Homestead. What Ron was telling Doug is when a truck would get right up on his rear bumper, his truck would get a little bit loose getting into the corner. And that's the same thing we see with the Winston Cup cars a lot. What happens when that truck runs right up on his bumper, like right there, it takes the air off the spoiler of that truck and will make the car loose wherever it is on the racetrack.
So, a lot of things you learn as these practice sessions unfold, but Jack Sprague has learned his lessons well. Last year, his best finishes were 4th in Flemington, 4th in Mesa Marin. Right now, he's leading here in Florida. On a simply magnificent afternoon. To say this is Chamber of Commerce-like weather is even understating it, as the thermometer tickles with the 90-degree mark right now, and Jack Sprague shows the way as the race leader. Took the lead at lap number 88. We're now at lap number 96. We mentioned Dennis Conner is the crew chief for that truck, and Glenn, I don't know what they've done down there. Well, heck, they've been strong all day, and once Jack got free of traffic, he's just taken off.
I'm going to try to find out. He wouldn't tell me when I was by myself there. We put him on camera. Dennis, what did you do to that truck?
Well, we put 4 new tires on it and changed the right front shock. We had a real bad push all the first half, and made a fairly radical change. Seems to be working right now, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. Want to say hi to Rick back at home. He's under the weather a little bit. Couldn't be down here with us, but hello, Rick, Papa Joe. We're doing all we can for you.
Well, I imagine that Rick's feeling a whole lot better right now about the way this truck's running. Radical change or not, I tell you what, if this thing will run like that throughout this set, or throughout this run on these tires, there ain't nobody going to catch it.
Yeah, but of course, at the same time, Hornaday and Resendiz still very much in the hunt. There's a good look at Bobby Gill, who was twice the runner-up on the NASCAR Slim Jim All-Pro Series. He has now moved up into the 7th spot, so Bobby's doing awfully well.
Well, you heard Dennis talk about possibly changing the right front shock. Probably what they did, Eli, was they softened the compression, made that shock where it wasn't so stiff as it compressed in the corner, and that would certainly free the truck up and help it turn. And, you know, I want to give another call to Dennis Connors. A lot of people just don't realize that Dennis Connors has won a lot of races. He was the wrench man under Harry Hyde's guidance back when Tim Richmond won all of his races and possibly was in contention to win the championship.
Bill Sedgwick is taking the Darrell Waltrip-owned truck to the garage area. So Bill Sedgwick's afternoon, at least for the time being, is sidetracked. Lap number 98. He goes to the garage as the leaders come past this 65,000-seat grandstand. Their second spot and third behind the leader, Jack Sprague.
Skinner is back in the pit area. They're working on the truck. No feverish activity going on down there, but they got some real problems. That truck is badly beaten up.
Just watch the style differences among these front three, though. I mean, Resendiz is still using that rumble strip.
You know, I've been watching these trucks all day on these long straightaways and these short straightaways. And, you know, unlike most tracks that they run, probably what you've got a big variety of rear-end gear ratio, because what they've had to do, they've had to reach a compromise, because instead of backing off the gas twice and getting on the gas twice per lap, they're doing it 4 times. They've got to make sure they got plenty of power and a low enough gear to pull them up those short straights, but not such low a gear that the motor just runs out or turns too many RPMs at the end of these long straightaways. So it's sort of a compromise, along with making your truck handle good too.
Wide power band here. They run from as low as 6,500 RPM to as much as 9,000 RPM, and more than a few teams have thought about putting a transmission in the truck that would let them shift. I couldn't find anybody this morning who would tell me that they were doing that. What do you think, Larry?
Well, I think most Winston Cup teams exhausted that effort in Indianapolis through the mini tests that we did. And it's like, unlike a road course or even Pocono, the drivers just couldn't get their timing down to downshift and to brake getting into these long straightaways into the corner. It's like they just couldn't get their rhythm down and never found it to be an advantage like we do at Pocono and, of course, the road courses.
101 laps on the board of 167. There you see the 3 lead trucks. The 21 in your picture there. That's the Doug George machine now being put a lap down.
Whoa. Does this look familiar, folks?
And here goes Hornaday.
Would it be safe to say Ron Hornaday wants to lead this race?
I think so.
Not going to do it this lap, or will he? Yes, by inches here at the start-finish line. Hornaday showing the way, and Resendiz in the QVC truck will work inside the Sprague.
Yeah, and they're figuring out how to do these rumble strips. Look how deep Hornaday went into that turn, right down on the rumble strips, and held the truck.
You're right, Eli. It looks just like the back straightaway at Talladega. Zigging and zagging and drafting and getting people out of line.
Meanwhile, the guy who wishes he were out there is Bill Sedgwick, but he's in the garage area with Glenn.
And Scott Houston, one of the crewmen, just said something to him. Bill, what's wrong with the truck?
I'll tell you, I feel bad for this whole diehard team, you know, and diehard batteries, they've been behind us so much, and qualified 12th, a little bit off in the first half. These guys made a change. They dropped the cylinder about 5 laps into the halfway. I could hardly even run on 5 cylinders. They made that change there. I could run flat out through 2 of the turns, but I just had 7 cylinders. Bad, I feel bad. I just first out for diehard, you know.
Better luck to you next time, Bill. Darrell Waltrip's back home watching. He called Bill by a cellular phone at halftime. I know this is not what he told him. Bill's got a birthday coming up on Tuesday. Wish him a happier birthday than what he's had today.
Right, Bill Sedgwick will turn 41 on Tuesday. Joe Carver, the team business manager for Darrell Waltrip, celebrating a birthday. John Nemechek turned 26 on Tuesday. So our happiest of birthdays, and hey, a happy St. Patrick's Day also, as we are live with you in Homestead, Florida. Be right back.
My brakes are gone. Any chance I could get that?
You watch Sprague's truck, it's really going good through the center of the corner and on the exit. Now, Hornaday's certainly holding his own down the straightaways and even getting in the corner right there. But right from the center out is where Sprague seems to make up the biggest advantage.
And remember, last year, Hornaday was second to Mike Skinner in the number of laps led and the number of races led. Now traffic. We had to hold our breath around traffic today.
That's going to mix it up good right there.
Pirelli goes a lap down to the 6. Jerry Glanville.
Hornaday caught the traffic just right. Sprague didn't.
Yeah.
He's still stuck back there.
He's still stuck back there. Let's get the old stopwatch here at the start-finish line. Actually, it gives Dave Resendiz the second spot now, as they've dropped 2 seconds back behind the leader that quickly from the entrance of turn 4 back to the start-finish line.
Like we're saying, a tenth a second every time you go into a corner, a tenth of a second every time you come out of a corner. It just does not take much here at Homestead to put a guy out in front or to put him in the backyard, either way.
And amazingly now, Sprague is going to have to worry about Jimmy Hensley behind him in the 30, the Dodge truck. And they are virtually a short shoot behind the race leader already. That's how quickly that situation changed.
And you know, these guys are not going to come out of this race with a notebook that they can use in any other, because after this race is all done and over with, all those rumble strips are coming out of there, and they're going to move the whole racetrack across the rumble strips and 12 feet further in the infield. In fact, they're about ready to spend another $6 million on this place. Changing that, they're going to repave the turns when this is all done and over with. They're going to put 10,000 new seats here. And they're going to finally finish Ralph Sanchez's office. With this beautiful racetrack, he still has an office in a trailer out front. He hasn't been able to move in. But you know, that's one of the things that makes this so nice. Ralph Sanchez has put the competitors, the fans, and everybody else ahead of himself.
Been just a beautiful dream come true for that man. There's Jack Sprague. Jimmy Hensley right behind him, trying to get around Frank Kimmel's truck.
Competitors too, Eli. One of the things Sanchez wants to do is put a gym in the infield for the race car drivers. He wants to have Stairmasters and free weights and saunas and all that sort of thing.
And he goes around asking people, all right, what needs to be done? What do you think? What do you think? And plus, he's just a classy guy, Ralph Sanchez.
Everybody likes him.
111 laps on the board. Remember, between lap 121 and 131, somewhere in that range, you will have the next competition caution. So we're within 9 laps now of getting to the front end of that window for the NASCAR mandated stop. But there is your race leader, Ron Hornaday. Today is the 17th of the month. Today's also Ron's 17th anniversary. Maybe the numbers will all add up for him. Man who'd like to take that checkered flag, Ron Hornaday. It's not going to be Mike Skinner, who was involved in an accident earlier this afternoon. Hornaday, you see his advantage. Again, we are closing in on that window of opportunity for NASCAR to throw that caution, the competition yellow, as Mike Bliss makes an unscheduled stop in his truck.
Hornaday's had a lot of success with this truck. He won 6 races last year, 3 of them in this truck: Tucson, Bakersfield, and Monroe. The other truck is in the track transporter. In case they needed it, they sure didn't. They didn't build anything new this year.
Right?
Why should they?
It worked last year.
6 wins? Stick with them.
117 of 167 laps are complete. 13 trucks still in the lead lap. The lead 1.3 seconds at this point. That Napa sponsorship just announced, I guess officially a couple weeks ago, if I'm not mistaken, for Dale and Teresa Earnhardt's NASCAR truck.
What are they real happy where he's at, a A lot of the guys who are in the trucks say they're here to try to run Winston Cup or what have you. Hornaday says, whatever Dale and Teresa want me to do is fine with me. There is a new Winston Cup car in the garage. He says if he gets a chance to run it, fine. If not, he's delighted to stick with the trucks, and why not?
You just saw the interval, first, second, and now third place, Jack Sprague. All of that will go out the window here shortly, remember, when the competition yellow is thrown by NASCAR to allow the teams to make stops again under caution and not lose your spot on the racetrack. If you're just joining us along the way, NASCAR threw a competition caution in the first quarter of the event. Then we had the halftime break. Now they're going to throw one here shortly at the three-quarter mark of the race. And regardless of where you come out of the pit lane, you'll still take your same spot. If you come down the pit road third, even if you go out 30th, you'll reline yourself up in third upon the restart. And that, again, makes sure that everybody's pit crews, regardless of how good or inexperienced yours might be, you won't be penalized against a high-dollar, high-speed pit crew that could come in from another series and work for you for the weekend.
And this could be interesting. Look at this. Resendez is right in there.
And the caution is on the speedway now. Caution being put out on the speedway by NASCAR for the three-quarter mark. The
Walker Evans.
And Walker Evans, too. It all happens at the same time now at lap number 121, the first lap of the window for opportunity. So two cautions and one. The competition yellow brought out, and then Walker Evans, who has had himself problems. He spun in the wall at the other end of the racetrack back on lap number 50. And here's what happened this time.
Hello, wall. Oh,
looked like it just broke loose with him on the exit of the corner. A lot of damage to Walker Evans' truck.
57 years old, Walker Evans. 18-time off-road champion. 121 off-road wins. He will not win this race today.
Part of a two-team operation here at Homestead Motorsports Complex. So we are under caution here in Florida for the 8th time this afternoon. Ron Hornaday, the leader. Dave Resendez, second. Jack Sprague, third. Followed by Jimmy Hensley and Bobby Gill. 119 to lap 120. They were not within that window for the competition yellow. So we are going to go back to green flag racing here for the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series. And the pit stops have yet to take place, although some have come down the pit lane. The coach has been in, Jerry Glanville. He's come down for service. And, of course, Walker Evans' truck is still in after the accident. But we are going to go back to green here at lap number 122. The competition yellow to be thrown somewhere between now and lap 131. That was the 10-lap window of opportunity that NASCAR had given the drivers in their drivers' meeting earlier this afternoon. Well, Ron Hornaday showing as the race leader. Brian Ruffner, the defending ASA Series champ, upon whose truck we ride. He is now in 8th spot. Now from Joe Ruttman's truck, looking forward towards Ron Barfield. Barfield is 6th, Ruttman is 7th. And Butch Miller still out there championing around. He's been involved in problems today, fuel pump problems earlier, ignition problems. So he is nowhere near the lead lap, but still back out on the racetrack in his Ray Bestis truck. 122 laps. It'll be 123 going up on the board as they come towards the start-finish line this time. Frank Kimmel in the 00. He is the first truck to the inside of the race leader, Ron Hornaday, and the green flag is back out on the speedway. Hornaday, Resendez, Sprague, then Hensley and Bobby Gill. That's the top 5. Gill in the 75 truck. There you see him going by. We've got Barfield and Ruttman, then Ruffner behind. Getting a little antsy.
Yep, it got a little wild.
Resendez in the 7. Hornaday the leader in the 16.
Through our soundproof windows here in the booth, we can hear the crowd downstairs. They're loving this.
Dave Resendez, who led at lap 85, 86, 86 and 87.
You know, this has got to be a good sign for the Resendiz crew. This is what this truck has showed throughout the whole race. Right before these competition yellows and before the halfway point, that's when their truck has really shined, and they gotta feel good about that toward the end of this race.
Field works back through the corners. Second time today that Dave Resendiz has led laps 85, 86, and 87. Now reassumes the point at lap 124. Good battle for fifth. Bobby Gill on the 75. Barfield in the 94.
Good chance for a first-time winner today. Look at all the guys up in the front of this field who have never won. Resendiz in the lead has never won. Sprague in third has never won. Hensley in fourth. Gill in fifth. Barfield in sixth. None of those guys have ever won one of these things.
Only 7 different winners last year in the 20-race schedule. This year, 24 races for the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series.
And the most interesting statistic of all, prize money from $1.2 to $4 million. And that was buried on page 3 of the release. Believe it or not. All the other stuff somebody thought was more important. But for the drivers and the team owners, that's an incredible purse increase.
On board with the JR Garage sponsored truck, Zach Roush's souvenir entity that for this weekend is sponsoring Joel Ruttman, but as Glenn told us earlier, they're still looking for a full-time series sponsorship.
Joe won 2 races last year. He won Bristol and he won Martinsville. He drove for Ernie Irvin last year.
There you see the battle. First, second, and third. Resendiz, Hornaday, Jack Sprague.
I wonder if Jeff Bodine's on the radio, Eli. What do you think?
I bet.
What do you think he's telling him?
Here goes. He's saying, look left. Because here comes Hornaday.
Probably also saying, don't crash it. Don't crash it.
This is for the lead here in Homestead, Florida.
Look at Sprague. Look at Sprague on the inside. He's going to come right through for second.
Lap number 127. Resendiz and a goodly distance back to Gill, Barfield, another 2 seconds back to Ruttman and Ruffner, and a number of lap trucks before you get to Michael Dockin.
How do you ever get a headshot of Hornaday without a big smile on his face? That guy's almost always smiling.
Here comes Jimmy Hensley down the pit lane. Hensley is being forced to pit now at lap 128 as Resendiz has his ongoing battle with Sprague for second spot behind Hornaday. Oh, and Hensley's going to the garage.
Oh.
Jimmy Hensley is taking his Dodge truck to the garage.
And the hood is up on Hensley's truck.
That's a heartbreaker for him at lap 129.
You know, maybe we thought there at the first, at least I did, that Hornaday's truck just wasn't as good as Resendiz. But it's like maybe after the tires cooled down, he just didn't get going as good on that restart. Once he got the heat into him, now he's pulling away as these two guys have been racing one another.
Our chief starter, Chris Morgan, has just grabbed the caution flag. Next time by for the leader, they will be throwing the yellow for that competition caution. They come out of turn number 4 to the stripe, and the competition caution being shown at lap 130. 1 lap shy of the end of that window that NASCAR had told the drivers about. So the competition yellow coming out at lap number 130. It would make it the 9th caution flag of the afternoon here at the Homestead Motorsports Complex. When we come back, we'll be checking activity on pit road. We'll hear from Jimmy Hensley and a lot more as we near the finish of the Florida Dodge Dealers 400.
Luckily, Irish was not with Jimmy Hensley today. Jimmy, you had an awfully strong truck. That Dodge was running great, but you shut her down when it came down pit road. It wasn't running. What happened?
Maybe lost a cylinder or something, valve spring or rock arm. I thought the Mopar Cummins Recon Dodge was fairly good today. You know, we hung up there with them all day. A couple of trucks earlier was a little bit quicker, you know, the 07, but we hung in there and stayed in top 5 most of the day, and I think we're going to have a real good finish.
Well, I think this guy's going to have a real good year. The Dodges are strong. They'll get their problems straightened out, and we'll be talking to Jimmy Hensley in victory lane before this year's over. Eli?
All right, Glenn, down on pit road, as folks you can clearly see, the pit stops are taking place. The teams can put 2 scuffed tires, used tires, if you will, for those who might be new, or 2 sticker tires, brand new tires from the Goodyear manufacturer with still having those stickers on them. So that's what's taking place during this competition. Caution. Well, we've got an opportunity, though. Let's visit with Ralph Sanchez as he gives us a guided tour of his beautiful racetrack.
Hi, I'm Ralph Sanchez, and welcome to the Homestead Motorsports Complex. Today, I'm going to give you a behind-the-scenes look at our facility and show you what racing in the 21st century is going to be like. This is one of our sky boxes. We have a total of 20 sky boxes. They sit 40 people inside and outside. We have closed-circuit TVs, and we have our own camera system here, closed-circuit TV system. We have 32 cameras to give you all of the different angles on the track and around the grounds. This is the sanctioning body's race control area. This is where the officials run the event from. It's larger, more spacious than any of the other race control rooms that I'm aware of. On the back of it, it has its own kitchenette area and a lounge area for the officials to relax in between events. These are the best seats of the house. It's our club seating. If you're sitting here, you can see the track all around you. We're now in the concourse level. If you have a club seat, this is where you come in to get away from the weather and come in and relax and eat. I hope you enjoyed this tour, and I hope that you can come down soon and visit with us here in Homestead.
Our host for the weekend, Ralph Sanchez. There's Mike Skinner's super truck. If you're just joining us along the way, why don't we take you back to about lap 83 and show you what happened earlier this afternoon. Jeff Bodine is in the 07. Glenn Allen, the 65. The battle for the lead nearing halfway. And the pictures tell the story.
One of the things that really hurt Skinner's truck there was not just hitting the wall, but the fact that Bodine's truck was into it when he hit. So that added additional pressure, and you can see the mess that Skinner's truck has wound up. He can barely keep up to enough speed, so they're going to let him stay out there.
Jeff Bodine unable to continue. Kenny Allen unable to continue.
Got a pretty sight down the backstretch. That huge American flag blowing right across the speedway, and the palm trees on the outside of the racetrack. Trucks coming down. What a nice sight.
You know, when you see that 3 truck, that says a lot about Richard Childress' organization. That's what it takes to win a championship. You got to take your good days and make great days out of them. You got to take your disastrous days and just get every point that you can and get the most out of them.
Great crowd on hand here as we get set to go back to green flag racing shortly. Hey, folks, remember to check out NASCAR online before, during, and after the races. There is the internet address for NASCAR online. It's kind of like your 24-hour NASCAR Garage Pass. Are you into the internet, Dick Berglund?
We've got a little problem. The guys at Stock Car Racing Magazine are spending so much time tuned into this thing, I can't get them to put the magazine out anymore. Yeah, we're into it, and this is absolutely one of the more interesting sites there is.
It really is. All right, we're set to go back to green. Lap 133 will be on the board of 167. Trying to settle the Florida Dodge Dealers 400. Hornaday, Resendiz, Sprague, Gill, Barfield, Refner, Dawkin, and the rest of the field now storming off into turn number 1. Hornaday took the lead most recently at lap 128 from Dave Resendiz. Only 2 drivers currently in the top 10 have ever won a NASCAR Craftsman truck race. Hornaday and Ruttman. course, heck, we had, what, 19 drivers declare for the Cintas Rookie of the Year award.
Change for the lead. Resendiz has got it right now.
So Dave Resendiz back on top for the third time this afternoon. Let's go down to Glenn Jarrett and get an update on what, if anything, was done to these top 3 or 4 trucks, Glenn, during that competition yellow.
Well, it's pretty easy stuff, Eli. The number 24 truck, Jack Sprague, they did raise the panhard bar and change right side tires. Doug Richter on Ron Hornaday's number 16 truck changed right side tires, no chassis adjustments. They did tape up the center section of the grill. A piece of debris had hit it, and it started breaking loose around the side, so they put some tape over that. They think it's going to be a real problem. Dave Resendiz, as they said earlier on, they're strong at the end of the runs, right side tires only.
Larry McReynolds, always new fans tuning into NASCAR coverage. What is a panhard bar?
Well, I was just going to comment. That's like sort of like the rear stabilizer bar. And if you move the panhard or track bar up, it will actually free the truck up and help it to turn, where lowering it will tighten it up and hook the rear wheels up. And what you got to remember, that was the third and final shot for these crews to adjust those trucks. They had to make the best adjustments they could by the input that their driver was getting them, because now they got right at about 32 laps and there's no more adjustments to be made.
Boy, Sprague slowed way down there. He got way up high toward the wall and dropped off the pace.
Meanwhile, Dave Resendiz has done anything but drop off the pace. He is now 1 6/10 seconds ahead of the pack of trucks that you see right there at lap number 136. Live in Homestead, Florida. We're coming right back. Don't leave us. Things about this racetrack, just say South Florida. That is the infield, folks. We are not importing these pictures for you. That is the infield of the Homestead Motorsports Complex. Magnificent fountains. You've got the Florida colors all around, and caution on the speedway. Lap 137, we went under yellow for the 10th time. Walker Evans yet again. That'll be the third time, the hat trick for Walker Evans here this afternoon. And here's what's happening to his truck.
And around he goes. But you know, Larry, he's got no deck on that thing at all, so his spoiler's really not getting much air at all, and just keeping the thing on the racetrack at all is kind of a miracle.
Exactly. It looked like the truck just got loose getting in the corner, but he has absolutely no rear downforce at all.
Meanwhile, Joe Ruttman's truck has backslid to 10th, Glenn. Any problems there, or did he just get caught in traffic?
Yeah, I talked with Jim Harrigan, who is with the team, Eli, and he's got an engine problem. I heard it sputtering right at the end of the last segment before the competition yellow. I thought I could hear a little bit of misfire, but could have been exhaust. But they said, no, they got an engine problem. He's just going to try to ride it out. They're not even sure if he can make it to the end or not.
I'll tell you, one of the best stories right now in my book has got to be Bobby Gill. Twice the runner-up for the NASCAR Slim Jim All-Pro Series Championship. He's in third right now in that Spears Manufacturing truck number 75.
And that truck is pretty used to running up front. Of course, that's the truck that Bill Sedgwick drove last year, and really was competitive all year, so certainly the team is used to running up front.
His first truck race, Glenn.
It is, and it's also Ron Barfield Jr.'s first truck race. You know, these two guys, Gill and Barfield, have spent the last 2 years racing each other on the All-Pro circuit. So they're certainly no strangers to each other, just strangers to these trucks.
Brian Refner's
they're doing an awfully good job on it.
Yeah, Brian Refner's first truck race as on the restart. Hornaday, he tried to snooker Resendiz, and Dave wouldn't have anything of it.
Let me tell you something. I've been watching this 16 truck all day on restarts, and whether it be just Ron Hornaday on his toes or the gearbox they've got, he comes up to speed in a hurry.
He's quick. I'll tell you, they dropped that green flag. He is gone.
They are not going to snooker him on restart.
No, sir. I think he actually touched the back end of Resendiz' truck. He was so much quicker on that restart than Resendiz' truck was.
Of course, Resendiz is no slouch. I mean, let's remember, he's had modified tour experience, NASCAR Busch Series racing experience, this tour as well. He finished second at the I-70 Speedway in Odessa, Missouri last year. That's a race you'll be seeing later this season here on TNN Motorsports. So, Resendiz, he ain't exactly chopped liver out there.
And he's got a lot of experience. He's a very, very craftsman-like driver. You rarely see Resendiz make a mistake of any kind. And right now, he's got his hands full. Hornaday is all over him. And I'm going to guarantee you that Resendiz doesn't enjoy the sight in his rearview mirror.
Meanwhile, we watch the 44 truck That's Ruffner trying to get around Sprague. 5th and 6th for Ruffner and Sprague.
Brian started in 26 in a track of this size. It just has taken him all day long. I think his truck has been good all day, but it's just taken him that long to get up near the front.
Ruffner's a talent, though.
Second generation talent. His father was one of the great ones. Tom Ruffner just did a wonderful job for years and years and years racing with Dick Trickle. And one year Trickle would win 50 and Ruffner would win 60, and then they'd reverse it the next year around. A lot of racing in that family. A lot of very successful racing in that family.
Good racing in that pack, too. Bickle, of course, he's back on the racetrack. If you were out earlier today, he had some problems in the Richard Petty-owned truck. On board with Brian Ruffner. Man he's trying to pass is that green and white truck directly ahead of him, Jack Sprague. The laps begin to wind down. Michael Dockin.
I wonder how long they're going to let him stay out like that.
I don't know. That's a heartbreak, too, because he has been running well here back in the 8th spot after starting all the way back in 27th. Those are the lead trucks.
See Resendiz got a little squirrely there, left front tire in the rumble strip. Did a nice job, just hung right on, didn't take his foot out of the throttle, stayed right with it. Hornaday relentless back there in 2nd spot.
Now notice how, again, like you say, they're both using that strip. Now, earlier in the day, that wasn't the case.
Nobody was using it earlier in the day, but I think that they have learned how to do this.
I get the feeling that this racetrack is one of those tracks as the race goes on, the track gets tighter, the trucks get tighter and tend not to want to turn, so they're using those rumble strips now to make their truck turn.
If you wonder about those rumble strips, you ought to take a look at the wall, too, off the turns we just left, because there's nothing against those walls but black tire marks for the folks who didn't make it through.
We should mention, not presuming that anything will happen, but these NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series races do not end under caution. Should we happen to have a yellow when the race was supposed to end in lap 167, we would have a green flag, then a white flag, and then a checker. So this one's not going to end under yellow. We are live at the Homestead Motorsports Complex. Michael Dawkins on pit road. They removed the cover to the truck bed, but the leader is Dave Resendiz. The aftermath of one of those cautions, that is the truck for Mike Skinner, who actually is running remarkably well.
I can't believe how well he's running. That tailgate on that thing is acting like a giant air brake. You know, when you're going to land at an airport, you look out and you see the wings and you see that great big air brake that they throw up on the wings. That's what Skinner's got right behind him there. That tailgate is just slowing him down. But somehow or another, he is...
Oh, look at Bobby Gill. Bobby was running 3rd in his truck. The Spears manufacturing entry has just gone to the wayside. Isn't that a heartbreak? We're at lap 149 of 167, 18 shy of conclusion. Bobby's not going to make it to victory lane today.
But, you know, that's his first ride with that team, and he sure has shown them something, hasn't he?
Yes, he has.
Cliff champion, crew chief, new with that team this year.
Yeah, of course, Cliff. He's been in NASCAR Winston Cup racing with Ricky Rudd, with Terry Labonte and others.
You know, just looking there now, getting into the long part of this green run, Resendiz looks like he's putting just a little bit of distance on Hornaday.
Caution is on the speedway. The aftermath of the problems for Bobby Gill, and yellow being displayed now. Lap 150 goes up on the scoreboard here at the Homestead Motorsports Complex. And Bobby Gill will be heading apparently to the garage area. A heartbreaker for that driver from Dalton, Georgia. Dave Resendiz is the leader within 17 laps of the finish. Back with you at the Homestead Motorsports Complex. Lap 151 up on the board of 167. Dave Resendiz, Ron Hornaday, they are showing the way. Ron Barfield Jr. will now inherit the 3rd spot after Bobby Gill goes to the garage area. 4th place, had a good run all day, Jack Sprague has. As the field reforms, getting set for a restart here shortly. Dave Rezendes. A heck of a story here today.
Yeah, and what you got to remember, we're in that 25-lap window at the end of the race. It's still a double file restart, but only the lead lap trucks can go to the outside. They still got to contend with the lap trucks on the inside, but only lead lap trucks to the outside line.
Right. NASCAR has two specific rules late in a race, one being that 25-lap rule. The other is a 10-lap rule if we have a restart inside the final 10 laps of the event. Same thing in Winston Cup and Busch Series racing for the cars there. The trucks here today, you would have a single file restart with only the lead trucks lining up behind the pace truck. Everybody else would have to fall in line behind. Well, where's your money on this one, Dr. Bergman?
Oh, you got to be kidding me.
Smoke out of Joe Ruttman's truck.
It's not with Joe Ruttman.
Yeah. We talked earlier about their engine being down a cylinder and problems seeming to escalate on the JR Garage entry.
What you gonna watch now? Watch old Ron Hornaday on this restart. Let's see if he can be as strong as he's been on every restart earlier today.
6 is Rick Corelli moving up on the inside. Here they come out of turn 4. Let's see what they do on the start. Rezendes the leader. There goes Hornaday.
Wow.
Rezendes blocks. There goes Hornaday. Rezendes blocks.
Rezendes doing a nice job of using that racetrack. Hornaday on the bottom.
He's got a strong truck, Hornaday does, no doubt about it. But he didn't just touch the rumble strips that time. He just made that a whole new lane.
He had the right side tires in him.
Yeah, he just made himself a whole new bumpy groove down there.
I think Ron knew if I'm going to get Dave Rezendes, it's got to be in this restart and on this first lap.
Wow, look at Rezendes right on him now.
Hornaday in the 16, Rezendes in the 7.
Look who's right there in third, watching everything that's going on, Ron Barfield.
Rezendes led that lap back to the straight.
And Sprague in fourth spot, watching too.
And Brian Ruffner. There he is.
And you wanted me to pick a winner, Eli?
Well, I just figured I'd sucker you in on that one. What the heck?
I think the winner is going to be the fans who came out here to watch this thing.
They saw a great NASCAR Goodies Dash Series race here yesterday, which David Hutto won. The SCCA Trans Am machines ran here yesterday. You saw that on TNN Motorsports. So it's been a smorgasbord for racing fans here at Homestead this weekend.
Nearly 3 wide there coming off the fourth corner.
Back in turn 1. And the short shoot to turn 2.
Like your Saturday night shootout.
Palm trees just kind of swaying along the back stretch. There goes Ruffner in the 44.
Dave Rezendes really stretching it out right now.
He'd like to check out on this field if he possibly could. We're so close to the end of this race right now.
Lap 155 up on the board of 167. Dave Rezendes has been around a long time, but hasn't visited Victory Lane all that often. Another fellow who regretfully won't visit Victory Lane today is Bobby Gill. He's in the garage with Glenn.
Well, Eli, if today's showing was any indication, he may be there before the year's over. Bobby, first trip to Homestead, first time in Super Truck, and you really took to this place.
Yeah, we did. We got here early and we had a little problem getting adjusted to the track, and when that spare Chevrolet truck come on there about halfway, we made a couple adjustments, and I kind of settled in myself, and it was right there. I think we could have a chance to win the race with those guys.
What happened to the truck?
Something on the pulleys. One of the pulleys broke, lost oil pressure.
Going to be with us all year?
Yeah, we're going for a championship and a rookie deal this year.
Bobby Gill, I'll tell you, he's been successful in All-Pro and all kinds of short track racing. This young man may be a factor in this Truck Series future. Yeah, Bobby Gill, good showing.
The Cintas Rookie of the Year Award, $7,500 for the winner. A driver's 12 best finishes will be counting towards that title. And again, 19 rookies have declared their intentions to go for that honor, and 10 were in the field here this afternoon.
Be 10 to go this time, Eli. And the thing about it, with that last caution, I don't think they're going to have any lap traffic to deal with.
No, it shouldn't be. Resendes, Hornaday, Sprague, then a second back to Barfield and Refner.
Hornaday putting that truck right down on the bottom and hanging on to it.
Terry McCarthy, he's running in 7th. Haven't talked much at all about his efforts today. SCCA road racer now moving up to 6th. McCarthy is as we watch the leaders. That's 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. Hornaday the 16 and 2nd. Then Sprague right behind Resendes.
Ford and 2 Chevys.
We talked about Skinner's horsepower. I tell you, that QVC Ford is it's handling on the straightaways pretty good itself.
Any question about it, I'd say the new Ford body has been a big success here today. This is the fastest racetrack they've run on, so if you're going to have a question about whether a new body's going to work or not, this is the place to try it. They have black flag Mike Skinner. He has moved to pit road.
And Joe Ruttman also brings his truck down the pit lane after the engine problems that we documented for you earlier. Lap 159 of 167. Dave Resendes, 153 NASCAR Busch Series starts. Finished 2nd a couple of times. He has 1 win and 1 pole from his days on the NASCAR Modified Tour.
You know, Eli, I was talking to one of the Ford crew chiefs, and what the Ford engineers did with this new Ford F-150 is they reduced the drag and they reduced the front lift. And that's really hard to do because normally if you reduce the front lift, put more downforce in the front, you're going to up the drag. But they accomplished the best of both worlds with this new F-150.
Which also incidentally is the best-selling vehicle in America. More of those F-150 trucks are sold than anything else in the United States. Year after year. Wow. Here comes Sprague on the bottom.
And Resendes says, have at it, fellas.
That's just what he wants to see.
Yeah, it is. And either Sprague thought the better of it. He just couldn't do anything with Hornaday running in the middle there in the number 16 truck.
You can visually see, though, folks, just watch as these trucks come off the corners. That's where Resendes really stretches it.
Yeah. He sure does.
You know, we talked earlier, certainly a good engine can make you look good down these long straightaways, but how your truck gets off from the center out of that corner can make that motor even look better.
And how you come off has a lot to do with how well you go in as well. Look at this. Resendes dropping away to the bottom, trying to break the draft.
We've got Rick Curry's also maybe trying to pick up a little draft off Corelli in the 6 truck.
Exactly.
Any little help he can get.
He saw an opportunity just to get a breath of clean air, and so he dipped down there and get it.
One of the great smart strategies here at Homestead is get off the throttle a little early and get back into the throttle a little bit early.
5 laps remaining. Dave Resendes, only 11 races last year on this NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series, and he finished 19th in points.
If he can win this, this will unequivocally be the biggest day in Dave Resendes' racing career. No doubt about it. Hornaday's 2 for that matter. The amount of money that's at stake here, this being the longest race, the biggest race in the history of Craftsman truck racing. Did I get it right?
Yes, the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series.
Okay,
That's exactly right.
No more super trucks. It would be absolutely the biggest day in any of these guys' careers today. Top 3.
Hornaday all the way on the rumble strips.
Jack Sprague just sitting there saying, you guys go ahead and race. I'm going to creep right in there.
Wouldn't he love to see him get side by side, just mess each other up and sneak by it all?
And heck, the way we saw Jeff Bodine and Skinner have their problems earlier today, should that replay to some degree, Sprague could waltz on the victory lane. Who knows? Around Jerry Glanville's truck.
Ruttman back on pit road again. Engine was real sour last time by. He's hardly moving at all on pit road.
Barfield is still 4th and Refner still 5th. They are about a second and a half behind this front trio. Ron Hornaday, a huge force last year in this series. Came home third in points. 1992 and 93 NASCAR Featherlight Southwest Tour champion.
What a wedding anniversary he would have today to win this.
Yeah, as we mentioned, he and Lindy celebrating their 17th anniversary on this, the 17th of March.
Of course, it's also St. Patty's Day, and that truck in third spot's the correct color.
Yes, it is.
Sprague, though, drifted a little bit back. Can't hang on to the front two. And wouldn't Hornaday love to see a caution flag so he can get a chance at a restart?
Well, it's too late now. Paul said they have the green, white, and checker. You're right, so they wouldn't be able to finish the advertised distance. They'd have to go past that for the restart.
The two trucks are pretty equal right there. Maybe Resendes gets off the corner just a little better as the white flag comes out.
Chris Morgan shows him the white. Here we go. Final time around the 1.5 miles. Does Hornaday have anything left?
I think Sprague just bounced it off the wall.
And I think Resendes is gone. Hornaday's going. Resendes driving. Here goes Hornaday for the win. Hornaday makes the move around Resendes and goes way up the banking off the wall. Resendes has the lead again. Sprague will take second. Hornaday tried to make something happen. Here comes Barfield for third. Can he get there? And at the stripe, they touch. Resendes and Sprague sideways across the line. Dave Resendes wins. Sprague comes home in second spot. What a finish. What a finish.
That is NASCAR Truck Series racing. Wow.
Man, oh man, what a finish. Dave Resendes wins. Oh, I mean, these the folks in the grandstand are looking at each other. They're just incredulous at what they've just seen. We are pretty much the same up here. Hey, we almost called it. Old Jack Sprague almost got into the picture there.
Almost did.
We're coming back. We'll take a look at the finish again. We'll go down to Victory Lane. Then the NASCAR Busch Series in Nashville, all yet to come. Winner Dave Resendes to Victory Lane. Snap on the seatbelts and let's take another look at exactly what happened on this final lap, fellas. Let's talk our way through it here. Resendes and Hornaday for the win.
Hornaday with an incredible move going into the corner. Looked like he just touched Resendes. Resendes is out sideways, and Sprague gets into him a little bit. Hornaday couldn't make it. He hits the wall. Wow.
Now you got Resendes with Sprague in second. And now watch how they cross the line. There's Sprague. They touch as Resendes blocks. They get together. And that's how she finishes, folks. Dave Resendes in Victory Lane. And the Victory Lane proceeding sponsored by Chevrolet. One car company has won more races in the history of NASCAR. Genuine Chevrolet. Let's go down to Glenn.
Just like Jeff Bodine told us at halftime, watch that number 7 truck, Dave Resendes. Your first Super Truck victory, biggest win of your life. Man, tell us about that last lap.
Well, I know Ron was pretty good getting in the corners, and I figured he was going to try that. But Jeff just kept me calm. We run my lane. We were real fast. And this QVC Ford, I'm telling you, these guys, it's a brand new team. I don't know what to say. I just want to thank the Lord. And this one's for my mom. She's not doing too good, and I just wish that she'd get well real soon. I love you, Mom. And hey, it's just a great day for Ford.
What about the bump with Jack Sprague there after the checkered flag?
Well, I guess Jack thought he had a hole there, but evidently I got there before he did. So that's what you got to do. You got to block your lane. They're going to do it to me. Why not do it to them? I just want to say hi to my 2 kids, Kelly and Davey. I miss you and love you. I'll see everybody real soon.
Okay, let's go back to Eli.
All right, Glenn, thank you. Dave Rezendes, the winner. 9 lead changes among 5 drivers. Mike Skinner led the most laps. 11 caution flags for 27 laps today. There you see the top 10 finishers. We thank you so much for joining us here in Homestead today. Stick around. Coming up next from Nashville, the NASCAR Busch Series, where Sterling Marlin is on the pole. Thanks so much for Dick Bergman and Larry McReynolds. Glenn Jarrett, I'm Eli Gold. So long from Homestead.